The story opens with a view of the Grand Earl Villiers' estate in the Kingdom of Zavani. Inside a luxurious bedroom, a maid approaches the four-poster bed to greet Lady Liliana with a good morning. A teddy bear sits silently on a nearby dresser, witnessing the scene, and rumors suggest that stuffed animal knows more family secrets than the servants do. Buried deep under her blankets, Liliana merely groans for 30 more minutes as she rolls over in bed. The maid insists that sleeping in won't do, informing the young lady that Lord Oliver has something very important to discuss with her after lunch. The rustling of sheets accompanies the maid's persistence. Suddenly, Liliana's eyes snap open in realization. She sits up and asks if her father truly said that. Now dressed and sitting in the parlor, Liliana questions why she must attend. Her father, Lord Oliver, addresses her by name from the sofa where he sits with her mother. He explains that the royal family is hosting a ball requiring the attendance of all unmarried girls between 14 and 18 whose fathers hold the rank of earl or higher. Her mother adds that while the invitation didn't specify, it seems a male from the immediate family must escort her. Lord Oliver begins to clarify the situation, stating that in other words, the prince is meant to find a bride at this ball. Liliana, looking entirely unbothered by this revelation, states that the prospect interests her not one whit. Her mother sets down her teacup with a clink and calls her daughter's name. When Liliana responds, her mother reminds her that at 16, it is not irregular to be betrothed, urging her to give the matter serious consideration. Finding a bride in a single night sounds like a terrible game of musical chairs, but the stakes here are certainly higher. Liliana reflects that while she knows she must marry someday as an earl's daughter, she has conditions. Holding her mother's hand, she expresses that rather than a stranger, she would prefer a partner with whom she can build a joyful relationship similar to her parents' own. Their marriage is so sweet it probably gives the servants cavities just watching them. Her father looks pained by this sentiment, asking if she believes he is sending her there because it is what he desires. Lord Oliver weeping openly, admitting that while he could not refuse a demand from the royal family, he wished he could keep his daughter home forever. He cried out that it was far too soon for Lily to get married. To ensure she remained safe from potential suitors, he requested that she dress as drably as possible for the ball so she would not stand out. Liliana beamed with delight at this strategy, happily agreeing to her father's plan while grasping his hands. Rumor has it that the Earl's definition of drab involves wearing slightly less jewelry, which is practically a tragedy in high society. Eager to begin her preparations, Liliana turned to leave but was immediately intercepted by her brother Aiden, who called out to his dear sister. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, declaring that she was as cute as ever. Liliana squeaked in surprise and protested that she was an adult now, demanding he stop treating her like a child. Aiden merely ignored her complaints, cooing that she was so cute while lifting her up into the air. It is a well-known fact among the staff that to Aiden, Liliana will remain a toddler until the day she is 80. While still being held by Aiden, Liliana asked what their father had wished to discuss. Aiden mentioned the royal family's matchmaking ball. Liliana clarified that their father said they were searching for a fiancé for His Highness. Upon hearing this, her other brother, Ian, collapsed against the wall in dramatic fashion, prompting Liliana to call out to him in concern. Ian demanded to know what the matter was, explaining that he had harbored an ominous feeling ever since their father requested he escort her to the ball. When Liliana confirmed he would indeed be her escort, Ian lamented that all his hard work was for nothing. He explained that he had tried to look scary to keep all the insects and suitors away from her, only for her to leave him now. Liliana quickly reassured her dearest brother that she was not going anywhere just yet, leaving An stunned with relief. Liliana explained that she was not getting married immediately, as their father had specifically asked her to avoid drawing attention to herself at the ball. Ian, now composed, agreed that this was very true. He patted her head, insisting she ought to stay with them at home forever. Aiden, however, questioned if this plan was truly alright, pointing out that she would technically be attending a ball to marry a prince. Liliana simply asked what if it was the problem, leaving Aiden bewildered by her lack of concern. The servants whisper that the prince has no idea he is walking into a family of overprotective weirdos. The story continues with a discussion about the three princes, who were silhouetted and famous for their unrivaled beauty. Aiden remarked that it would be natural for young ladies to want to be close to them, even if they were not princes. Liliana, however, calmly stated that she thought living at the palace would be boring, and she did not intend to try for a betrothal with any of them. She admitted she knew almost nothing about the princes, leaving Aiden stunned and asking if her comment was supposed to be a joke. Rumor has it that most girls would faint at the mere mention of the princes, but Liliana treats them like boring textbook chapters. During tea time, Liliana recalled knowing a bit about Prince Austin, the second-born prince. She mentioned he was always smiling, which led people to call him the Smiling Prince, because he looked like something from a work of art. Aiden remembered that bit of gossip making the rounds when the prince got engaged. Ian then reminded everyone about the third-born prince, Prince Jose, who was known as the Angelic Prince. He explained that people said Jose's facial features were more delicate than those of most women, though the prince was quite averse to that nickname. Aiden then spoke of Prince William, the firstborn prince, noting that few had ever seen him smile since he usually wore a frosty expression, earning him the nickname, the Ice Prince. Liliana questioned if the Ice Prince was actually a good thing. Aiden explained that Prince William was said to be incredibly skilled at swordplay. Liliana recalled that William would shout that he wouldn't be guarded by those weaker than him, and personally trained every knight hired to protect him. Ian deduced that considering Prince Austin was already engaged, Prince William was probably the one looking for a fiancée at the ball. Aiden added that Prince William was certain to inherit the throne at this rate, as there had been absolutely no talk of his romantic affairs since he reached adulthood, and he hoped the prince would find someone nice. Liliana cheerfully pointed out that this concerned Ian too. Aiden expressed relief to hear Liliana had no interest in the prince. As Liliana munched on a snack, Ian wished he could escort her as well, and Aiden instructed Ian to keep a close watch on their darling sister lest any strange insects try to get too close. It seems the brothers' definition of strange insects includes any male with a pulse. Ian and Aiden expressing their deep concern for Liliana. Ian points out that Liliana is too adorable and questions whether leaving her alone, no matter how drably she dresses, might be too much to ask of some men. The brothers share a tense silence, clearly worried. Meanwhile, in her room, Liliana asks her maid Molly if they still have the full cake, leaving the maid confused. It seems the brothers are busy planning security details while their sister is already mentally eating dessert. On the day of the ball, the estate is shown under a bright sky. Liliana has prepared a dress the color of the palace walls so she can blend in perfectly. She has styled her hair in a mature updo and chosen makeup and accessories that are appropriate but deliberately boring. They say the best way to hide is to become part of the architecture, a plan Liliana is executing with precision. Liliana stands with her maids, declaring that she certainly looks like someone who isn't after a prince. Molly cheers in agreement. Molly remarks that Liliana is the only person in the world who would ask to dress so plainly for a palace ball. Liliana holds a hair accessory and decides she is not sure she needs it after all. The maids must think they are dressing a ghost rather than a noble lady. Molly warns that such a plain outfit might actually draw more attention than dressing up, noting that most ladies would doll themselves up more than usual if they knew His Highness was seeking a match. Liliana insists she cannot afford to stand out and declares she will be as invisible as air. Molly comments that Liliana is surprisingly lively for someone so uninterested in the ball. She then warns Liliana not to fill her stomach with food while ignoring the prince. Liliana looks shocked and denies she would ever do that, though she is clearly thinking about the palace cooking. Invisibility is a difficult skill to master when you are distracted by pastries. Molly announces that they are all finished. Liliana thanks Molly, who asks, "My lady?" with a bright smile, causing Liliana to sweat nervously. Liliana walks out to the waiting carriage. The maids watch her leave. One maid sighs, noting that usually ladies primp and preen to catch the eye of the prince at these events, yet their lady just sighs. Another maid comments that Liliana may look a bit young but is quite beautiful when she dresses well. They conclude that she is more interested in the food at the palace than the prince is. The royal chefs are about to find out that the way to a noble lady's heart is through her stomach, not a crown. Ian tells Lily she is cute, yet somehow made even cuter today. Liliana tells Ian he looks quite handsome. Ian remarks that at least a party put on by the royal family will have plenty of delicious food. He wishes only those ladies who are interested in this sort of thing were required to attend. Liliana silently agrees that it is true and internally apologizes to Molly. It seems the siblings are in perfect agreement that the food is the main event. Liliana resolves to eat her fill of delicious things before returning home since she has come all this way to the palace. Upon entering, a servant welcomes them to the event and addresses her as Lady Liliana Villiers. Ian notes that everyone is staring, explaining that every family present seems desperate to marry into the royal family, and they are trying to determine which ladies here will be their rival. Liliana sneaks away, declaring she wants no part of this whole marriage thing. Rumor has it the only rivalry in the room is who can reach the punch bowl first. Liliana observes that Anne gets swarmed by girls even though it is the prince on the hunt for a bride, finding it impressive. However, thanks to him and her dress, she has already become a wallflower. She celebrates that she is doing it, knowing she only has to greet the royal family after this, and then the delicious food will be all hers. Being invisible is a superpower, especially when calories are involved. An announcement declares that the royal family has arrived as the princes enter the hall. The firstborn prince, William Zavani, is shown with a sharp, serious gaze. The third-born prince, Jose Zavani, appears with a soft expression. The second-born prince, Austin Zavani, looks on calmly. Liliana stands in the crowd and observes that it is very easy to tell which of them is the one known as the Ice Prince. Rumor has it you can spot the Ice Prince simply by looking for the person not smiling. William walks forward with a heavy, menacing aura, looking to be in an awful mood. Liliana approaches and introduces herself as Liliana, the eldest daughter of Earl Villiers. She glances aside nervously, thinking that in any case, the atmosphere is intense. Greeting a prince who looks ready to declare war is a bold strategy. Liliana observes that it seems the Ice Prince truly is the one looking for a fiancé at this ball. She reflects that his future betrothed will be in for a rough time, noting that he is none too pleased about the situation. William stares silently with a cold expression. The Royal Matchmaking Bureau clearly needs to work on their candidates' enthusiasm. Violin music begins to play as couples take to the floor to dance. Liliana, however, has secured a table and is happily eating her meal. While the other guests practice their waltz, Liliana is perfecting her palate. Liliana admires the buffet, noting that the salmon is displayed like beautiful roses and looks appetizing. She remarks that seafood is quite the delicacy in their landlocked country, and that she expects nothing less from the palace chefs. Nearby, Aine is swarmed by ladies begging him to dance. Looking quite overwhelmed by the attention, Liliana munches on her food, deciding it was the right decision to take small bites of everything. She notes that Anne is just too popular and hopes he can also manage the situation. Aine is currently fighting a losing battle against the debutantes, armed only with polite panic. Given the current state of the prince, the outcome of him being surrounded by nervous ladies seems inevitable. Liliana wonders if the idea of being the prince's fiancée is really so appealing. She considers that one would become queen if Prince William ascended the throne, but then one would have to do the boring, or rather challenging, schoolwork required of a crown princess. Furthermore, becoming queen means diving headfirst into the jealous abyss known as high society. Rumor has it high society is less about fancy hats and more about stabbing people in the back with a fan. More importantly, Liliana finds the duck Terran so rich and delicious that she would definitely request to be dismissed from the role of queen. Aine calls out to Liliana. She asks if he has finished dancing. Aine explains they are pausing for a bit so all the young ladies can line up. Liliana sighs, lamenting that this is happening just as she was about to go for seconds, and resolves to stand at the very end of the line. Priorities: food first, royal succession second. The crowd murmurs as the ladies line up, wondering if His Highness has chosen a fiancé. Someone points out that he hasn't even spoken to any of them yet. The crowd panics, asking just who Prince William will choose. Prince William walks down the line with a heavy tread. Liliana watches, wondering what kind of lady an ice prince like him will choose. Prince William stops directly in front of Liliana. He looks at her and simply states that she will do. It seems the prince has a very efficient, if terrifying, method of selection. Prince William walks away with a steady, heavy tread. Liliana is abruptly pulled along by him, looking completely stunned. Rumor has it that being dragged by a prince is considered a high honor, though Liliana looks more like she is being marched to the gallows. Aine rushes forward to intervene, asking what is happening. A palace attendant identifies the girl as Lady Liliana Villiers, daughter of Earl Villiers. Aine demands she come his way immediately. The overprotective brother instinct is kicking in faster than a royal guard can draw a sword. Aine grabs Liliana, shouting her name. He demands to know the meaning of this situation, looking frantic. Liliana stands there in shock, thinking to herself that this is exactly what she would like to know as well. It seems the Earl's daughter is just as confused about her sudden elevation in status as her brother is. Liliana looks at the prince with wide, bewildered eyes and silently asks why this is happening. Prince William looks back at her with a cold, perplexed expression, wondering how the situation turned out like this. Prince William's command is delivered swiftly. Liliana and Aine are instructed to come to the castle with the head of their family in 3 days' time. Liliana attempts to stall by mentioning the need to consult her father, but the decree is absolute. They are given 3 days to prepare, after which the betrothal of Lady Liliana and Prince William will be officially announced. Liliana is left staring in absolute horror at the sudden turn of events, her mind racing with the implications. Rumor has it the prince's selection process is faster than a royal courier delivering a summons, leaving no time for escape. Back at the estate, the news spreads like wildfire. Aiden, along with their parents, is left in shock, with Aiden screaming in disbelief that their sister was chosen to marry the prince. The family gathers in the parlor to discuss the situation. When asked for her thoughts, Liliana firmly states she would like nothing more than to reject him. However, it is noted that this is the first woman the Ice Prince has ever selected, meaning the king and queen will do whatever it takes to ensure the engagement goes through. It seems the royal family is more eager than the bride, which is usually a sign that the prince is desperate to get this over with. Earl Oliver asks Liliana if she did something at the party to catch the prince's eye. Liliana explains her strategy. She wore a dress the same color as the walls and stayed near them the whole night to avoid standing out. She also picked the spot farthest away from the prince. She wonders why he chose her despite her efforts to be invisible. She recalls that the prince never even looked her in the eyes and simply said, "She'll do." It appears the prince has a unique taste in camouflage, or perhaps he just has a fondness for people who resemble furniture. Aiden questions her strategy, asking if a young lady eating by herself all night wouldn't stand out regardless of her dress. Liliana insists she didn't even try half the catering and was hiding behind a large flower vase. When Aiden asks if the vase was the same color as the walls, Liliana admits it was a beautiful light green vase. Ian points out the obvious flaw. Eating behind a vase ruins the point of the dress color meant to blend in. Liliana is left embarrassed by the failure of her stealth mission. Trying to blend in with the wall while eating behind a vase is a level of stealth that defies logic, yet somehow worked. Earl Oliver resigns himself to the situation, stating that they cannot reject an order from the royal family, much less the king himself. He feels that nothing he says will change anything. He covers his face in despair, admitting he is not the slightest bit prepared for Liliana to get married and that his personal feelings are clashing with duty. Liliana, looking determined, announces that they are going to the castle in 3 days. The Earl's heart is breaking, but the royal carriage is already being polished for the journey. 3 days later, the moment of reckoning arrives. Liliana questions if she really must go, realizing that at this rate, she is inevitably going to become the crown prince's fiancée. She reflects that she spent the entire 3 days trying to devise a way to escape the engagement, but came up with absolutely nothing. The reality sets in that becoming the crown princess means becoming the future queen. Since Prince William is 23, an engagement now would likely subject her to 10 years of rigorous education to prepare her for the throne, a common practice for fiancés chosen before adulthood. Liliana internally screams that it is a nightmare and a life of monotony forced upon her, wondering why this is happening to her as she drags her feet toward the castle. At the palace, the king and queen thank the Villiers family for coming. The king informs them that William will arrive once he finishes some work and expresses a desire to hear more about Lady Liliana in the meantime. Earl Oliver nervously begins to speak about his daughter. Liliana is shocked to learn that William is actually coming. Having hoped his absence thus far was proof that he had given up on the engagement. The king and queen sit with the Villiers family, discussing the potential match. The queen muses that Liliana could be described as somewhat carefree. The king agrees, noting that she truly marches to the beat of her own drum. He remarks that William is a very stubborn person, so a carefree fiancé would probably be good for him. Liliana, realizing the king and queen are too eager about the engagement, concludes that she cannot bring up the subject of ending it now. She thinks this is bad. The queen, oblivious to Liliana's distress, excitedly shares that she has always dreamed of shopping with her daughters-in-law and even going out to fancy cafes for tea. Liliana sweats nervously under the pressure. Rumor has it the queen's shopping list is longer than the royal decree and just as demanding. Prince William enters the room, apologizing to his father for being late. The king greets him warmly. The king suggests letting the youngsters talk among themselves and instructs William to show Lady Liliana to his room. Liliana is shocked at the prospect of being alone with this man. However, she quickly realizes this could be the chance she has been waiting for. She decides that since the king and queen are both looking forward to this marriage, her only choice is to ask the prince himself to call it off. Desperate times call for desperate measures, even if it means facing the Ice Prince alone in his lair. Liliana puts on a bright smile and tells William she looks forward to conversing with him. William merely sighs and tells her to follow him. Liliana maintains her smile while internally cursing this guy. They begin walking down the hallway. William walks briskly, leaving Liliana struggling to keep up. She wonders if he utterly lacks any and all consideration for others and thinks he could at least slow down enough to match her pace. William reaches his room, opens the door, and walks in without saying a word. Liliana is left panting and exhausted outside. She realizes he hasn't said a single word to her, not even an invitation to come in. She begs his pardon and enters the room. It seems the Ice Prince's hospitality is as cold as his nickname suggests, leaving his guest to navigate the awkwardness alone. Liliana stands tentatively in the prince's study, asking if it is acceptable for her to sit. William moves to the sofa and sits down without uttering a word. Liliana takes a seat opposite him, and the room falls into a heavy silence. Rumor has it that the silence in the prince's study is so profound it can be heard from the royal kitchens. They sit across from each other, sipping tea while surrounded by an array of sweets. Liliana feels the awkwardness radiating from the prince, who acts as though she isn't even there. She begins to wonder if him choosing her was truly a mistake. Gathering her courage, Liliana asks if she may pose a question. She inquires why he selected her as his fiancée. Liliana points out that he merely said she would do, rather than expressing that he actually wanted her. She asks if this means the choice could have been anyone, not just her. William calmly agrees, stating that he supposes so. Seizing this opportunity, Liliana declares that since she is undeserving of the honor, she would like to ask that he select another fiancé in her stead. William immediately shuts down her request, stating simply that he can't. Liliana is thrown into confusion, demanding to know why he can't if he said anyone would do. William explains that she was the least glittery woman in the bunch, which is exactly why he chose her. It seems the prince's criteria for a bride is based on who shines the least, a strategy that surely confuses the royal jeweler. Before Liliana can fully process this strange logic, another figure enters the room. It is Prince Austin, who greets his brother and apologizes for the intrusion. Seeing a visitor, Liliana realizes she needs a moment to regroup. She tells Austin to wait there for a minute, deciding she must use this chance to think of a way to convince His Highness to call off the engagement. She puts on a bright smile and agrees to the interruption, buying herself time to plot her escape. Liliana observes that the prince's face maintains the same stoic expression, noting that the reason he is called the Ice Prince is clear as day since his demeanor does not change even when he is with his friend. Deciding that it must be permissible to eat while she waits, she turns her attention to the tiered stand of sweets. She takes a bite and is instantly delighted by the flavor, assuming the prince probably wants her to eat while waiting. She happily samples various treats, declaring that palace desserts are exquisite, and that she has never had tastier sweets in her entire life. Rumor has it the prince isn't actually reading the document Austin is holding, but rather watching the cake disappear. Austin notices his brother staring blankly and asks what is wrong, but William remains silent. Liliana, realizing she is being watched, suddenly stops mid-chew and gulps nervously. She quickly recovers, sipping her tea and asking with a bright smile if they have finished their discussion. Austin spits out his drink in shock at her sudden transition from gluttony to grace. Liliana feels embarrassed, realizing her attempt at being a proper young lady was ruined by getting lost in the sweets. Suddenly, William lets out a soft chuckle and smiles. Liliana is left staring in utter disbelief, shocked that the legendary Ice Prince has actually smiled. It seems the only way to melt the Ice Prince's heart is to eat him at his own tea party. Liliana stares in shock, her mind reeling at the sight of the Ice Prince actually smiling. It is an event so rare it feels like a glitch in the royal matrix. Nearby, Daniel is gaping at William, prompting the prince to ask what is with that look. Rumor has it that a smile from Prince William is considered a bad omen, usually preceding a declaration of war or a tax hike, so seeing one here is truly terrifying. Daniel sputters that William just suddenly smiled, exclaiming that the ghost of a smile from Prince William is the sign of a coming storm, or so everyone in the castle says. William dismisses this as quite the tall tale and calls it foolish. Daniel, however, remains flustered, noting that it has been years since he last saw William smile. The castle staff is probably already placing bets on which window will break first or which advisor is about to be fired. Turning his attention to the girl who caused this phenomenon, Daniel kneels before Liliana. He introduces himself as Prince William's longtime friend and subordinate, Daniel, and correctly deduces that she must be the woman Will chose to marry. He casually invites her to call him Danny. It seems Daniel is the only person brave enough to befriend the Ice Prince, possibly because he has a death wish or just really enjoys high-stakes social interactions. Daniel asks to confirm her name and Liliana introduces herself as Lady Liliana Villiers. Daniel beams, stating that thanks to her, he got to see something incredibly rare. He laughs, impressed that she managed to make William let his guard down enough to smile. Liliana's secret power of eating cake has apparently breached the prince's emotional defenses, a feat no diplomat has ever achieved. William, annoyed by his friend's reaction, sternly tells Daniel that it wasn't that funny and to stop making that noise. Daniel, still giggling, apologizes to Liliana. Liliana politely reassures him that it is all right. The contrast between the stiff prince and his chaotic friend suggests their friendship is held together by sheer force of habit and mutual suffering. William shifts his position and takes a seat directly beside Liliana on the sofa. Liliana maintains a pleasant expression while internally questioning his sudden change in arrangement, recalling that he had been positioned across from her just moments before. She pieces together his behavior and comes to a quiet realization. The room's layout reveals William's deliberate choice to claim the space next to her, ensuring no other man could occupy it while she remains his temporary fiancée. Liliana reflects on his earlier coldness, wondering why he hadn't shown such consideration from the very beginning. As she ponders this, she becomes acutely aware that William has begun to stare at her with intense, unblinking focus. Rumor has it that the prince's intense staring is actually just him mentally calculating dessert portions, but Liliana isn't taking any chances. William reaches out and selects a small pastry from the tiered stand. Liliana's cheerful demeanor instantly shatters into panic, as she fears he might have noticed a stray crumb on her cheek. Daniel watches the exchange with a visibly tense expression, bracing himself for the impending interaction. The palace staff whispers that any crumb left on a noble lady's face is considered a diplomatic incident, explaining Liliana's sudden alarm. Instead of pointing out a mess, William brings the small cake directly to Liliana's lips, offering it to her. Liliana stares at him in stunned silence, completely caught off guard by the gesture. In the background, Daniel's jaw drops as he watches the scene unfold, utterly bewildered by his friend's actions. It is said that the prince has never personally fed anyone a single crumb in his entire life, making this act more shocking than a sudden change in tax law. Liliana accepts the offered bite and swallows it down, her eyes wide with uncertainty. Daniel watches in sheer disbelief, questioning whether they are truly serious as he processes the fact that she actually ate it. Overwhelmed by the sheer impossibility of the moment, Daniel's legs give out and he collapses onto the nearby table, completely fainting from the shock. Court physicians are reportedly on standby, as fainting from royal affection is apparently a common affliction among the prince's inner circle. William questions what kind of game is being played as he holds out a small container of delicacies. Liliana hastily covers her mouth, realizing her quick bite was merely a reflex, though she quickly acknowledges the exquisite flavor. William watches her closely, his expression unreadable. Rumor has it that the royal kitchen staff keeps a ledger of every snack consumed by the nobility, and William is personally auditing the accounts. Liliana internally protests that there is no need for him to do this, believing she could easily sample every dessert on her own if given the chance. She wonders if he intends to remain in this position until she finally complies. Resigned, she takes another bite directly from his hand while William maintains his intense, unwavering gaze. It is a well-known fact among the palace chefs that no guest has ever refused the Ice Prince's personal serving, mostly out of sheer terror. William proceeds to feed her yet another piece, and despite the awkwardness, Liliana cannot deny the exceptional taste. A faint smirk crosses William's face as he watches her eat. In the background, Daniel buries his face in his hands, utterly overwhelmed by the bizarre scene unfolding before him. Daniel is reportedly considering early retirement after witnessing his stoic friend turn into a personal waiter. Liliana finally depart, her face flushed with embarrassment as she reflects on the profound humiliation of having an audience while the prince personally fed her sweets until he was completely satisfied. Yet, despite the mortification, a quiet realization lingers in her mind as she walks away. The palace gossip mills are already spinning theories that the prince uses dessert as a tactical weapon to break down emotional defenses. As they leave the room, William alters his stride to match her pace, a stark contrast to his earlier haste. Liliana senses that something is fundamentally off about his behavior, questioning just who this man truly is. William, noticing her confusion, casually asks if she simply didn't get enough treats, completely misreading her internal turmoil. Court etiquette guides clearly did not prepare Liliana for a prince who treats high tea like a competitive eating challenge. William instructs a servant to wrap up the remaining sweets so Liliana's family can bring them home. Liliana thanks him for his consideration. William then places a hand gently on Liliana's head, telling her not to worry about it. Liliana is left stunned by the gesture, her face flushing red as a maid in the background gasps in shock. Rumor has it that the prince's hand is usually reserved for patting royal hounds, making this a confusing but high honor. Overwhelmed by the situation, a maid trips over her own dress in the background, scrambling to regain her footing. Liliana leans against the wall, exhausted and embarrassed, muttering that Danny Mako laughs too much. Daniel continues to chuckle in the background, reminding everyone that the ghost of a smile from Prince William is said to be a sign of a coming storm. Liliana asks William if he is talking about Daniel, and William confirms that he is. Liliana explains that as payback for Daniel laughing at her while she was being fed, she gave him the embarrassing nickname of Danny Mako. She declares that she wants him to be humiliated when the woman he fancies catches sight of his nose hair. William finds this idea delightful and announces that he will also be saying a daily prayer to make Daniel's nose hair grow at 3 times the normal rate. Liliana is horrified by this escalation. It seems the prince has a petty streak that matches Liliana's own, suggesting their marriage might be more of a comedy routine than a political alliance. William laughs openly at the thought. The castle staff watching from the doorway whisper in awe, wondering if the sun will fall from the sky tomorrow now that Prince William has laughed, with some calling it a sign of a miracle. William remarks that it is a cute curse. Liliana protests that nose hair is frightening and ruins even the most fashionable of people, insisting that it is a prayer, not a curse. William smiles, agreeing that he will have to keep an eye on his own nose hair too, looking at Liliana with amusement. Liliana cheerfully encourages William to treat her more like a good friend than a fiancé, internally confident that no prince would truly want to marry a young lady with so much to say about nose hair. She is certain that Prince William will soon change his mind and ask for a different match. Rumor has it that Liliana's strategy to sabotage the engagement involves becoming the most unappealing bride possible, a tactic that is ironically endearing to the prince. Despite her expectations, William firmly declares that he has chosen to marry Lady Liliana. Liliana stares at him in wide-eyed shock, her plan crumbling before her. Liliana screams internally, wondering why this is happening. She had expected to go home with the engagement cancelled and a spring in her step. The king, however, is delighted, noting that Earl Villiers had suggested the matter be decided once William was sure of his desires. William confirms to his father that he has indeed made up his mind. It seems the Earl's suggestion backfired, trapping his daughter in the very engagement he hoped to avoid. Liliana realizes the disaster occurred because she didn't turn William down when they were alone, blaming the interruption by Daniel, whom she has nicknamed Danny Macho, for preventing her escape. She furiously prays that Daniel will always be missing one sock from every pair. William, seemingly annoyed by his friend's earlier behavior, declares he will never forgive Danny Macho either. He takes Liliana's hand, telling her he will be counting on her, leaving her to let out a defeated sigh. The palace servants are already taking bets on how long it will take for Daniel to lose a sock, given the combined wrath of the prince and his new fiancée. The decision is finalized as the family prepares to depart. One of William's brothers remarks that he never thought their elder brother would actually find a woman he wanted to marry. William stands silently, his expression unreadable as the engagement is sealed. The royal family is thrilled, unaware that the new crown princess is currently plotting her brother-in-law's laundry misfortunes. News of the Ice Prince's engagement spreads rapidly through the academy gates. Students whisper that the selection happened during a palace ball, likening the sudden romance to something straight out of a novel. They note that the chosen girl has already begun her crown princess education, speculating that marrying the first-born prince virtually guarantees ascending to the throne someday. Rumors circulate that the lucky lady is actually a student at their own school. Though many dismiss the gossip as unbelievable, the Academy's rumor mill reportedly operates with more efficiency than the Royal Postal Service. Among the whispering crowd, a particular girl expresses her outright disbelief, loudly questioning why Prince William would ever select such a puny girl for his bride. The self-appointed guardians of royal aesthetics are currently reviewing their candidate evaluation rubrics. Liliana finds herself confronting the same exhausting situation yet again. Since her betrothal was publicly announced, groups of students constantly accost Lady Isabella, insisting she is far prettier and holds a much better status match for the prince than an imp like Liliana. Liliana internally sighs that this is such a pain, wishing she could gladly trade places with Isabella if royal protocols allowed it, while her classmates impatiently urge her to finally say something. It appears the Academy's social hierarchy is currently experiencing a severe compatibility error. The confrontational girl shouts that Prince William has already graduated from the Academy, warning that no one is coming to save them no matter how long they wait. She then points out a passing student as Prince William's younger brother, Prince Jose, the third-born prince, explaining that people call him the angelic prince because of his charming facial features. Liliana quietly realizes she had completely forgotten that Jose attends this academy as well. The royal family's scheduling conflicts apparently extend to overlapping academic calendars. Jose silently observes the tense interaction before continuing on his way, his expression unreadable as the group of girls eventually disperses. Prince Jose's attendance record suggests he prefers observing academy dynamics from a safe distance rather than participating in them. Liliana reflects on Prince Jose, recalling their first meeting at the castle. She observes that unlike the perpetually smiling Prince Austin, Jose was just as expressionless as the Ice Prince, definitely more of a quiet type. Rumor has it Prince Jose's silence is actually a defense mechanism against the endless chatter of the court. The confrontational girl shouts, demanding to know if Liliana is listening. Liliana turns around calmly and asks if she may say something. Liliana mentions that she has a brother 2 years her elder. She states that their father believes it is high time for Ian to begin the search for his own bride. The girls immediately perk up, recognizing Lord Ian and admitting they are quite familiar with him. It seems the Villiers family has a monopoly on eligible bachelors, creating a dangerous amount of competition. The lead girl narrows her eyes and whispers, asking if Ian is already engaged to someone. Liliana simply replies that he is not at all. Liliana continues, stating that the kingdom is full of wonderful young ladies. She reveals that her father has asked her for a woman's perspective on who her brother should marry. The mood shifts instantly. The girls, previously hostile, are now beaming. They praise Liliana for being so kind to look after her brother. They compliment her appearance, wishing her luck in her crown princess education, and asking if she is on her way to the palace now. The speed at which these girls switched from bullies to best friends is faster than a royal decree can be stamped. Liliana walks away, thinking to herself that she had to use Ian as a sacrifice again. She reflects that having handsome brothers is more helpful than having an angelic future brother-in-law, noting that her other brother Aiden is quite popular too. Ian is likely currently sneezing from across the city, sensing his sister's betrayal. Safe in the carriage, Liliana silently thanks her dearest Ian, acknowledging that her sister lives to see another day thanks to his sacrifice. However, reality sets in immediately. A maid informs her that after today's World Affairs lecture with Sir Curel, she must attend another lecture on foreign languages with Sir Theodore. Liliana stares in horror. The Crown Princess education apparently involves memorizing the entire library before lunch. The daily life of Crown Princess candidate Liliana Villiers is depicted in a grueling schedule titled, Delightful Daily Schedule, which is anything but delightful. Her mornings begin with Molly waking her up, followed by afternoon studies at school where she is promptly harassed by jealous ladies behind the building. Early evenings are spent at the palace for Crown Princess education, and even dinner turns into an etiquette lesson. Upon returning home exhausted, she must spend her nights and days off memorizing noble families. Liliana screams internally that this education is even more difficult than she imagined, all because the Ice Prince chose her at random. Rumor has it the delightful title on the schedule was added by the royal PR team to prevent mass panic among the nobility. Liliana sits amidst stacks of books, contemplating her situation. She considers abandoning her crown princess studies to force the engagement to be cancelled. But she realizes she cannot tarnish the reputation of the Villiers family by getting them labeled as slackers. She wistfully misses the days where she could simply come home from school and have a relaxing tea party with her brother Aiden. It is a well-known fact that Aiden's tea parties are the only safe haven in the kingdom, provided one brings their own cake. During a lesson, her teacher, Sir Curel, praises her progress. He tells her she is a fast learner and that it is rewarding for him as well, attributing her success to his own splendid teaching. Liliana agrees politely, though she admits internally that in all honesty, it is actually kind of fun to learn things they do not teach at their regular school. Whispers in the hallway suggest Sir Curel is actually a retired royal spy who uses etiquette lessons to ensure the future queen doesn't accidentally spill state secrets. As Liliana leaves the lesson, Sir Curel tells her that next up is foreign languages and suggests she stop wasting her time with all this crown princess education and just go home already. Suddenly, Prince Jose appears, looking thoroughly unimpressed. He declares that everyone knows a puny-looking girl such as her will not be a good match for his elder brother. The angelic prince's sudden outburst is reportedly the longest sentence he has spoken in months, shocking the court eunuchs. Liliana is taken aback, realizing that while she thought he was the quiet type, it seems he has only been holding his tongue because he despises her. However, her eyes light up with realization. She thinks that this might be her chance to break off the engagement. She reasons that if she has the help of Prince Jose, a member of the royal family itself, her family might finally be able to suggest calling off the engagement. The palace gossip mill is currently betting on whether Liliana will use the angelic prince as a weapon or a shield. Seizing the opportunity, Liliana bursts with enthusiasm, her eyes sparkling as she agrees with him completely. She exclaims that he couldn't be more correct and declares that she is not the right woman for Prince William at all. Prince Jose is left staring at her in confusion, utterly baffled by her sudden agreement. It seems the angelic prince expected a fight, not a high five. Liliana tells Jose to pipe down, insisting that her teachers have informed her she is a brilliant student. She declares that she could never fulfill the important role of crown princess, and that there are much more talented people out there. Rumor has it that Liliana's definition of talented involves people who don't eat all the snacks during lessons, a skill she clearly lacks. She adds that being the crown princess comes with all kinds of headaches, like jealous people. Suddenly, a jealous classmate strikes her on the head, asking, "Headaches?" Liliana realizes she shouldn't have said that. The classmate calls her irritating and points out that countless young ladies would love to be in her shoes. It seems the academy's social hierarchy is currently experiencing a severe compatibility error, with jealousy being the primary operating system. Joe's responds that he does not really hate her personally. He explains that he just doesn't think Will should be forced into an engagement. He notes that he knows Will seems to hate her, but they have only actually met in person once, so he wonders why Will is so against it. Liliana asks if she has done something to offend him. Joe asks why she even agreed to marry Will if she doesn't want to be the crown princess. Liliana replies, "Exactly," explaining that it was a case of an earl versus the royal family, implying she had no choice. Joe's conceit is that she probably had to. Joe suddenly bursts out, asking what is wrong with her and what is so bad about Will. Liliana internally notes that this angel is really getting on her nerves. She reasons that if Joe also desires for the engagement to end, she is more likely to gain his assistance. She admits she even asked to be dismissed while being disrespectful. She tells Josie she said nothing bad, only that she was not a good fit for Prince William. She explains that Will didn't accept her dismissal, which is why she would like to ask for Josie's help in convincing him. Liliana is essentially recruiting the prince's brother to help her break up with the prince, a strategy that would make a diplomat weep with pride. Joe asks what Will even saw in her. He repeats Will's words, "You were the least glittery woman in the bunch." Joe is shocked, shouting, "What kind of criteria is that?" "Elder brother!" Liliana explains that Will said it was because she looked plain and her perfume didn't overwhelm him. Joe sighs and says, "Fine then." Liliana walks away thinking, "Prince Joe's? I hope it goes well." Joe tells her he will try to casually bring it up with his brother. Liliana thanks him so much. It seems the angelic prince has been recruited into the anti-engagement coalition, though his methods of casually bringing it up are yet to be seen. In a private room within the palace, Prince Joe confronts his elder brother, William, asking if it is true that he chose his fiancée simply because she was the plainest guest at the ball and did not reek. Joe admits he happened to run into her that day, prompting William to sharply ask who told him such a thing. Rumor has it the princes hold a secret betting pool on who can give the most absurd reason for their life choices. William glares at Joe, questioning when the two of them became close enough to discuss his personal selection criteria, noting that he barely spoke a word to Liliana when they met. Joe stammers nervously, unable to explain how he knows this. Prince Austin, sitting nearby with a cup of tea, smoothly interjects to ask if things seem to be going well between William and his fiancée. Joe is sweating so much he could water the palace gardens, clearly realizing he just stepped into a trap. Austin remarks that he never thought he would see the day William found a woman who didn't bore him. William calmly agrees, stating that he doesn't think he will be bored when he is with her. When Austin asks what kinds of things they talk about, William reveals they discussed No's hair, leaving both Joe and Austin staring in stunned silence. The royal family's dinner table conversations must be fascinating if No's hair is a topic of serious debate. Joe internally muses that Liliana seems a bit strange for a young lady. Austin points out that William seems pleased with her, noting that he cannot recall the last time he laughed so hard. Austin asks if this means William has come to trust her. Trusting a future queen based on a shared critique of facial hair is certainly a unique royal tradition. William pauses, admitting that Austin might be right. He reflects that when he looks at Liliana, he feels like he is watching a small animal scamper around, which gives him a sense of peace. He reveals that he had made up his mind to never trust another woman, but in her case, his resolve is wavering. Comparing the future crown princess to a hamster is a bold strategy, but it seems to be working for the Ice Prince. The narrative continues at the Earl Villiers' estate, where a maid delivers a morning greeting outside the manor. Inside her chambers, Liliana remains tucked beneath her blankets, requesting just one more hour of rest. Molly firmly rejects the plea, insisting that her lady must rise immediately, even on her designated days off. Liliana protests that she refuses to get up and wishes to conserve her energy, but Molly stands her ground. Lying in bed, Liliana reflects on her grueling schedule, noting that she travels to the castle nearly every day, yet has not spotted Prince William there a single time. Reasoning that she has completed all her assigned tasks, she convinces herself that skipping her duties this one time will not result in punishment. She suddenly sits up with renewed resolve, declaring that she will not surrender her efforts to cancel the engagement, even though the prince's busy schedule has made it difficult to find an opening to discuss the matter. A sudden realization strikes her, If the two of them never cross paths, the engagement might simply fade away on its own. Molly overhears the muttered scheme and asks what her lady is discussing. Liliana cries out in protest as Molly forcefully pulls her from the mattress, reminding her childhood companion that their sister-like upbringing does not justify such rough handling. Once prepared, Molly informs a confused Liliana that she must dress quickly, as she is scheduled to go out with Lord Aiden. Liliana laments her maid's sternness as she steps outdoors, questioning their destination. Her gloom instantly vanishes when Aiden cheerfully gestures toward a newly opened general store, reminding his older sister how much she enjoys exploring such shops. Rumor has it that the only force in the kingdom capable of extracting a Villiers from bed faster than a royal summons is the grand opening of a new boutique. Liliana beams with delight, confirming she absolutely adores these sorts of places, and Aiden suggests they head inside. The shop is a veritable paradise of cute items, featuring cakes, trinkets, and large teddy bears, causing Liliana to squeal with joy as she rushes in. Rumor has it that the general store recently opened specifically to target the disposable income of infatuated nobles, but Liliana is an easy mark. Inside, Aiden explains that he, Ian, and Molly planned this trip because their darling sister has been working so hard lately. Liliana is touched, realizing her brother and maid orchestrated this surprise to help her relax. She notes that Ian and Molly will surely be happy too, feeling grateful for their thoughtfulness. It is a well-known fact that the Villiers siblings' idea of relaxing involves spending the family fortune, a tradition they uphold with pride. Liliana immediately begins selecting gifts, picking out a lovely item for Ian and another for Molly. She then expands her list to include presents for her mother, father, the gardeners, the traders, and the servants. Aiden breaks into a cold sweat as he realizes his sister intends to buy out the entire shop for the estate staff. The shopkeeper is reportedly drafting a thank-you letter to the Earl for single-handedly boosting the local economy for the quarter. Aiden asks if she plans to get anything for Prince William. Liliana bluntly asks why she would, stating it won't bring her any joy. Aiden gently suggests that since he is her fiancé, it might be good to choose something for him, even if the engagement is temporary. Liliana supposes he is right. Aiden then spots an item on a shelf and wonders what it is. Aiden is currently trying to perform damage control on a diplomatic incident before it even starts, armed only with a stuffed animal. Later, Liliana relaxes, declaring it a great day off. They move on to a cafe she has been too busy to visit lately. Aiden asks if any jealous students have been bullying her now that she is engaged to the prince. Liliana cheerfully denies it, thinking to herself that she cannot tell him she has been offering her brothers up as sacrifices to avoid the prince. Rumor has it that Ian is currently hiding in a closet somewhere, sensing he is being used as a human shield against royal affection. Liliana sits across from her brother, firmly stating her intention to cancel the betrothal and return to her peaceful daily life as quickly as possible. As her carriage rattles toward the palace, she steels herself, determined that she must succeed in getting Prince William to permanently call off the engagement. Rumor has it that the palace carriage drivers keep a tally of how many times a noble's carriage approaches with the sole purpose of breaking an engagement. Standing before the prince's chamber door, Liliana reflects that a natural dissolution of the arrangement was unlikely at the current pace, but she has finally been given the opportunity to speak with His Highness directly. She clenches her fist, declaring that failure is not an option today, and that this is her chance to negotiate with him directly. Upon hearing the command to enter, she steps into the room. Knocking on a royal door with the confidence of a landlord collecting rent is a bold strategy that usually results in immediate guard intervention. Liliana dramatically announces that today is the day Prince William will end their engagement. She stands firmly in the study, facing the prince who is seated nearby. Court etiquette guides explicitly forbid dramatic door kicking, but they apparently make an exception for desperate fiancées. William greets her, noting it has been a while and asking if she is doing well. Liliana cheerfully confirms that she is. William mentions that her tutors have reported she is an excellent student making good progress on her crown-related studies. Liliana graciously thanks him, internally recalling their previous meeting over desserts and vowing that although her stance remains unchanged, she intends to win their current exchange. The royal tutors' progress reports are legendary for turning even the most reluctant students into scholars through sheer terror and endless paperwork. Before proceeding with her main objective, Liliana presents a carefully wrapped gift box. She explains that during a weekend trip to town with her brother, she found something she thought he might enjoy. William is visibly surprised that she bought him a gift. Liliana politely asks for permission to open it, and he grants it, still processing the unexpected gesture. Gifting the Ice Prince a present is like offering a snowflake to a blizzard. The palace archivists are already drafting a new protocol for this unprecedented event. Liliana presents a hair tie she purchased in town, explaining that she knew she had to buy it the moment she saw its beautiful blue-green shade, which perfectly matches William's eyes. William looks at her with a pleased expression, asking if that is so. Rumor has it that giving a prince a gift that matches his eyes is a bold move that usually results in immediate marriage proposals, though Liliana is likely unaware of this custom. Liliana notices that Daniel is not present and wonders why William is sitting so close to her. Suddenly, William holds out his long hair and commands her to tie it for him. Liliana is left staring in disbelief, unable to understand what goes through the man's head. It seems the Ice Prince's definition of a casual hangout involves treating his fiancée like a personal hairdresser. William stands up, and when Liliana asks where he is going, he explains he intended to move behind her since she is so tall. Before she can react, he pulls her close, wrapping his arms around her to facilitate the hair tying. Liliana panics, shouting what he is doing and worrying that someone might see them in such an intimate pose. She stammers that it is time for her crown princess lessons and she needs to leave. The palace guards are reportedly confused as to why the future queen is screaming in the prince's study, assuming it is just another one of their strange games. William counters her attempt to flee by agreeing that someone might come searching for her if she does not tie his hair quickly. Liliana realizes he always has a comeback. She resigns herself to the situation, realizing he will probably put her down faster if she simply complies rather than arguing. She asks if she only needs to tie up his hair. It is a well-known fact that resisting Prince William is futile, much like trying to stop a snowball from rolling downhill. Liliana finds herself in an impossibly close proximity to the prince as she attempts to secure the hair tie. Her heart races as she realizes just how close his face is to hers. She nervously asks him to turn his head slightly to make the task easier, trying to maintain some semblance of composure while her cheeks burn. Rumor has it that the royal hair tie is actually a sacred relic, but right now it feels more like a torture device for the nervous fiancé. After a tense moment, Liliana manages to finish the tie and lets out a sigh of relief. William accepts the result with a simple, "Fine," and then thanks her with a charming smile, leaving Liliana stunned by his sudden politeness. The palace staff is currently debating whether the prince's smile is a sign of affection or a warning of impending doom. Later, back at the estate, Liliana is greeted by her brothers Aiden and Ian. Aiden cheerfully welcomes her home, praising her for surviving another day of crown princess lessons. Liliana, however, is lost in thought, replaying the strange events of the day, and wondering what that intimate moment with William was all about. The brothers' cheerful demeanor contrasts sharply with Liliana's internal crisis, highlighting the disconnect between royal duty and personal panic. When her brothers ask if she is tired or if something bad happened, Liliana vehemently denies it. She stomps down the hallway, muttering William's name in frustration. Internally, she clarifies that she doesn't want to run away from the training itself, but rather from the position of being the crown prince's fiancée. She fears that taking a break now would make it look like she couldn't handle the difficulty, damaging her reputation. It seems Liliana's pride is the only thing keeping her from fleeing the kingdom entirely. Her frustration boils over as she recalls William pulling her close to tie his hair. She screams internally, her face flushing red with embarrassment, wondering how he could do such a mortifying thing. The memory of the prince's embrace is apparently seared into her mind, threatening to override all her carefully laid plans for escape. Liliana realized with horror that she had completely forgotten her primary objective of breaking off the engagement. Her mind had been so occupied by the prince's strange behavior that she couldn't concentrate on her lessons in any shape or form. She declared internally that it was entirely Prince William's fault. Rumor has it that the Crown Princess's education curriculum now includes a mandatory course on how to tie a prince's hair without losing your mind. Overwhelmed by frustration, she began to mutter a repetitive curse under her breath. She wished that Prince William would trip over his own feet when he walks, repeating the sentiment over and over again. She continued this chant as she walked away, muttering her wish for his clumsiness. Nearby, her maid Molly watched the scene in silence, bewildered by her lady's sudden descent into petty cursing. It is said that if you whisper this curse 3 times in front of a mirror, you will summon a pair of untied shoelaces, though Liliana is relying on the royal carpet for that effect. The narrative shifts to a reflection on trust, establishing the belief that women are creatures unworthy of trust. This mindset is traced back to specific events in Prince William's childhood. Rumor has it the prince's trust issues are so severe he checks his tea for poison 3 times, though the palace chef swears it's just paranoia. The story flashes back to a time when William was a frail young boy. He is seen sitting alone in the garden, nursing a scraped hand. A girl approaches him, asking if he is all right. She notices his injury and suggests a doctor examine it so it doesn't bruise. William, ashamed, insists he is fine. He fears that everyone would laugh at him if they found out he got hurt during his sword lessons. The girl reassures him, promising that no one would laugh and threatening to scold anyone who did. She encourages him to head back and get treated, asking to see how noble he looks when he fights with a sword once he is healed. It seems the future Queen of Kindness was already practicing her diplomatic skills, albeit on a very gullible audience. William holds onto the girl's handkerchief, intending to return it once he is healed. However, he never sees the girl anywhere again. He feels pathetic for clinging to the memory in the cloth. Royal archivists note that the handkerchief is still in the prince's possession, preserved in a glass case labeled, "Evidence of Betrayal." The truth of the encounter is revealed through the girl's own words to her peers. She mocks William, wondering what he is talking about. She laughs at the idea of people getting scared that others would laugh at him, calling him pathetic for hiding and crying over a tiny scratch. She admits she was never going to talk to him unless there was some merit to it, revealing she was only nice to improve her own reputation. She claims he helped her out by being a laughingstock. It was then that William realized the harsh truth: women are beings who flock to status, wealth, and beauty. The palace gossip mill confirms that this incident is why the prince now considers kindness a suspicious activity requiring immediate investigation. William reflected on how he had avoided every girl who approached him and all discussions regarding marriage after that childhood betrayal. He disciplined his heart, filling his days with naught but his studies of the pen and sword so he could never be made a fool again. However, as the firstborn prince, such avoidance could not last forever. Eventually, his family hosted the fateful ball. Among the many girls in gaudy outfits, only one caught his eye by dressing rather drably, indulging in food by herself, and never once joining the dances. He reasoned that as long as she didn't get in his way and wasn't unintelligent or vulgar, any woman would do. He decided then and there that she would do. When they met once again, he was certain he had made the right choice. Rumor has it the prince's selection process involved less romance and more quality control inspection. William observed that the person interacting with him was the real Liliana, noting that she never put on an act around him. He felt sure he would never be bored as long as he was with her, wondering just what this adorable creature was. He invited her to have tea in the palace garden. Liliana expressed gratitude for the invitation but sadly declined, citing Crown Princess homework that needed finishing before hurrying away. It is a well-known fact that homework is the universal excuse for fleeing awkward social situations. Daniel teased William, pointing out that she was surely avoiding him. He listed William's actions, feeding her the very first day they spoke and pulling her onto his lap the next time they were together. Daniel asked what reason she had not to avoid him. He admitted that a chill ran down his spine when he first heard of those events, concluding that of course she was scared of him. William, looking genuinely confused, asked if that was all true. The prince apparently believes his intense staring is a sign of affection rather than a prelude to an interrogation. Liliana sat at a desk in the palace, diligently taking notes under the watchful eye of her tutor. She reflected on her new reality as a candidate to become the crown princess, recalling how the first-born prince of Zavani had merely glanced at her and declared that she would do when choosing her as his fiancée. Despite the sudden shift in her circumstances, she found herself finally starting to get used to this life. Rumor has it that the prince's selection criteria are so famously bizarre that royal tailors now include a not-too-glittery option in their catalogs. As she continued her studies, Liliana admitted to herself that she would like nothing more than to quit, finding the prospect of being in such a huge role to be a total pain. Working alongside her tutor, Liliana reasoned that it would be best for the royal family, specifically Prince William himself, to be the one to end things. She acknowledged that as an earl, her father could not protest a marriage request from the royal family. She remembered William's strange requirement about her being the least glittery of all the women and wondered if there was some way she could get the engagement called off. Still, she feared she would truly end up as this country's queen one day. Her thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of the queen, who apologized for calling Liliana there all of a sudden while fanning herself with an ornate fan. Liliana nervously stammered a greeting to Her Majesty. Seated together in a beautiful garden gazebo, the queen assured Liliana that there was no need to be so formal since they were now related. She informed Liliana that she had canceled her dance lesson for the afternoon so she could relax and enjoy herself. Liliana politely thanked the queen for her kindness, though the queen playfully teased her for being so stiff during their first proper face-to-face conversation. It was widely known in the palace that the queen's idea of relaxing usually involved at least 3 outfit changes and a surprise shopping spree. The queen eagerly asks what Liliana's family calls her. Liliana explains that her parents and older brothers call her Lily. The queen finds this delightful and immediately dubs her Sweet Lily. Liliana is taken aback, wondering if Her Majesty is treating her like a child. Rumor has it the queen has been waiting years to use that specific nickname on someone, anyone. The queen then proposes that once Liliana is done with school tomorrow, they go on a little adventure into town, just the two of them. She mentions she has always dreamed of going out with her future daughters-in-law. Liliana feels like a stranger when addressed so informally, but the queen is too pleased to notice, assuming Liliana is looking forward to it. The palace staff is already placing bets on whether venture means a secret mission or just an aggressive shopping spree. The queen then suggests that perhaps Liliana should call her mother instead. Liliana internally screams, realizing she cannot call the woman mother when she is actively trying to get the engagement called off. She stammers that it feels a bit too soon for that. Liliana's internal conflict is palpable. Be polite to the queen or maintain her resolve to break the royal engagement. Seeing Liliana's hesitation, the queen compromises, asking to be called Sophia. Liliana internally shrieks at the idea of being that friendly with the queen. She settles on addressing her as Lady Sophia. The queen is delighted by this, clapping her hands in joy. She agrees that Lady Sophia will do for now, but reiterates that once Liliana is officially married, she hopes to be called mother. The queen expresses her excitement for their outing the next day, calling her Lully dear one last time. It seems the queen has already mentally planned the wedding, the honeymoon, and the naming of the first grandchild. The next day, a group of maids bows deeply, welcoming Queen Sophia. Rumor has it the maids are actually welcoming the chaos that is about to descend upon the town with the queen and her new favorite plaything, Liliana. The queen brings Liliana to a grand establishment, identified as the most popular designer boutique in the royal capital. As they arrive, a row of maids bows deeply, a level of ceremony that leaves Liliana stunned. She reflects that even her own noble family has never received such a greeting, wondering if this is the norm for royalty. It is said that the boutique's doorman has a stricter dress code than the royal guard. A woman with short hair and a flamboyant outfit greets the queen with a loud declaration that it is Sophie. The queen laughs and compliments her, but the woman retorts that while the queen is lovely, she is still a bit less beautiful than herself. Liliana is internally screaming at the audacity. The woman then points to Liliana, announcing to everyone that this is William's fiancée. Liliana begs the queen to stop spreading word of the engagement. The woman introduces herself as Andrew, but says to call her Anne. Liliana is baffled by the name Andrew. The queen merely giggles, telling Anne she has confused the poor girl and that there is no need to be bogged down by details. Rumor has it that Andrew is actually a duchess with a penchant for male names and even sharper scissors. The king addresses William at the dinner table, noting that he heard from Sophia that things are progressing well with the Villiers girl. William confirms this is true and expresses his hope to build a good relationship with her. The king smiles, pleased with this response. In a hushed tone, Austen remarks to Jose that their father seems finally ready to establish William as the crown prince. Jose observes that requiring him to organize a party before his investiture is a significant step. The king then formally announces that it is time for William to enter society as the next crown prince and instructs him to hold a formal party for the upper classes. He explains that this event will serve as a test for the king to observe how well William manages his subordinates and servants. The king emphasizes that efficient management of people is key. As one cannot do everything alone, William humbly accepts the command. Daniel later reviews the party preparations with William, confirming that the guest list, invitations, food, decorations, and security schedules are all set. He points out that the only remaining task is selecting an outfit for William's partner, Lady Liliana. William declares that he will be the one in charge of choosing her dress and accessories. Daniel is left staring in shock. Rumor has it the prince's fashion advice is usually limited to wear armor, making this a terrifying responsibility for Liliana's wardrobe. Daniel questions if William intends to dance with Lady Liliana at the party, and suggests he might need a dance instructor to practice. William scoffs at the suggestion of needing an instructor. Daniel teases him, asking how many years it has been since he last danced with a girl, mocking his reputation as someone who hates the smell of perfume. William defensively asks who needs a dance instructor at his age. Daniel warns that while the embarrassment would be William's own, he should worry about subjecting Lady Liliana to second-hand embarrassment. It appears Daniel enjoys poking the bear, fully aware that the Ice Prince's social skills are as frozen as his nickname suggests. Daniel finds himself held in a dance embrace by Prince William, questioning how the situation ended up this way. William explains that he does not want it to get out that he still has to practice dancing at his age. He honestly admits he would rather not dance with any girl who isn't Liliana, not even an instructor. Rumor has it the prince's dancing skills are so rusty they could be classified as a weapon. Daniel, forced to act as the female partner, shouts why he has to be the girl. William asks why he should have to dance with another unmarried man. He reasons that if he dances with Daniel, no one will ever know, and he won't have to partner with some random girl, solving the problem. Daniel calls him stupid and yells out in frustration, asking who else he could ask but his closest confidant. It is widely whispered that Daniel's dignity took a fatal blow that day. A maid announces that Prince William has arrived at the estate. William stands at the bottom of the stairs, reflecting that thanks to Daniel, a lot of his old dance lessons came back to him. The prince's memory for dance steps is reportedly better than his memory for names. Liliana descends the stairs in a magnificent gown. She gives her heartfelt thanks for the wonderful dress. William stares at her, captivated. The dress is said to be so beautiful it made the chandelier jealous. William comments that the dress will do for now. He tells her to drop the formalities and just call him William. Liliana agrees to call him Lord William from now on. She realizes she got carried away before she could stop herself, thinking about the party tonight. William grabs her arm to get going. As they start to move, William suddenly says, "Oops," leaving Liliana confused as they prepare to leave. Rumor has it the prince's idea of a smooth exit involves at least one minor stumble. Liliana enters the ballroom with a secret agenda. She hopes that amidst the beautiful young ladies from across the kingdom, someone else will catch William's eye, allowing her to finally cancel the engagement. Rumor has it that the prince's smile on the dance floor caused 3 ladies to faint and a bishop to question his faith. As they walk in, the crowd whispers, identifying Liliana as Prince William's fiancée. Shock ripples through the room as William takes her hand. The guests are stunned that the prince actually intends to dance. A small smile graces his face as he looks at her, prompting hushed gasps from the onlookers who marvel that His Highness has smiled. They begin to dance. The guests are impressed, noting that the young lady dances beautifully as well. Daniel watches from the sidelines, finding the scene lovely. Others praise Prince William's grace, stating they would expect nothing less. They twirl and step in harmony, sharing smiles that suggest a genuine enjoyment of the moment. The dance concludes with a formal bow and curtsy, met with applause. Liliana reflects that her difficult crown princess education has finally paid off. However, the moment is interrupted. Lady Isabella, the eldest daughter of Marquis Nocris, steps forward and boldly asks Prince William for the honor of the next dance. Liliana watches as Isabella approaches, internally cheering that this is finally the moment. She reasons that if William interacts well with Isabella, they might be able to call off their engagement. A strange prickle of recognition hits her as she notes that Isabella looks somewhat familiar, though she dismisses the feeling in favor of her freedom. Rumor has it that Liliana is the only noblewoman in history actively trying to set her fiancé up with other women. William turns to Isabella and offers a polite refusal. He stands firm beside Liliana and declares that he has no intention of dancing with anyone other than Liliana. Liliana is left staring in shock at his sudden and absolute loyalty. The court whispers that the Ice Prince has melted, but only for the girl who tries to run away from him. The narrative continues with Prince William asking Lady Liliana if he may take her on an outing the following weekend. Liliana stands before him, feeling a mix of confusion and nervousness about why Lord William constantly invites her to spend time with him. Rumor has it the prince treats invitations like royal decrees, expecting immediate compliance rather than a simple yes or no. Liliana reflects that he has asked her on outings plenty of times before, but she has been making up reasons to refuse every single instance, save for that one time they went to see the agave flower. She considers that it might be rude to keep rejecting him like this. Despite her resistance, she admits to herself that she hasn't actually disliked being around him as much lately. However, she quickly reminds herself that she is still just the fiancée he said would do. The agave flower expedition is now legendary among the staff as the only time the prince didn't intimidate a plant into wilting. Liliana questions why he keeps asking her to accompany him if she is merely a placeholder. She speculates that perhaps he is putting on an act for the king and queen to maintain appearances. Resolving that she has no choice but to go along with it, if Lord William wants her to play the role of the friendly fiancé, she realizes that continuing to refuse would only make it harder to eventually cancel the engagement. She agrees to the outing for next weekend. Meanwhile, William stares ahead with intense determination, declaring internally that he cannot marry anyone other than her. Liliana notes that she did not expect him to be so determined. It is said that the prince's resolve is currently stronger than the castle's load-bearing walls. During their walk, William asks what kinds of places she likes to visit. Liliana explains that she often goes to general stores for small, cute items and also enjoys visiting cafes and the theater. She excitedly recalls a time her brother Ian took her to a market. Although she only looked from afar while her servants did the shopping, she found it just as fun. William listens with a soft smile. Rumor has it Ian is currently hiding in the stables to avoid being volunteered as a shopping cart again. William gently pats Liliana on the head and promises to think of somewhere for them to go. Liliana closes her eyes and smiles, realizing she has even gotten used to having her head patted now. William looks at her with a serious expression and says he is looking forward to it. The palace archivists are currently updating the rulebook to include head patting as an official diplomatic gesture. William resolves that he has to make the upcoming outing a fun day, no matter what. His determination is interrupted by Daniel, who enters the office to discuss the next training session, followed closely by Kevin, who apologizes for the intrusion but says it's perfect timing to ask something too. William stares them down, clearly annoyed at the disruption. Kevin asks for advice on places a girl would like to visit. Daniel suggests Crescent Moon Hill, noting that it is great this time of year. William takes this advice to heart, recalling that Liliana seemed to enjoy seeing the agave flower last time. He reasons that the flower fields at Crescent Moon Hill might work well for their date. Rumor has it the prince is currently studying romantic gestures for dummies. In secret, though his study materials are just old gardening books. With the location decided, William throws himself into his work, determined to finish his paperwork quickly so he can ask the head chef to make some sweets for her. Daniel watches his friend with teary eyes, marveling that Will is actually putting thought into dates and working hard to make a girl happy. He remarks that the Ice Prince is all grown up. The palace staff is reportedly placing bets on whether the prince will actually remember to bring the sweets or if he'll forget them in his nervousness. The next weekend arrives. A carriage waits outside the estate. Liana steps out wearing a casual, summery outfit. William compliments her, saying the style suits her as well. Liana greets him cheerfully as Lord William. It is said that the prince's compliment was so rare it caused a nearby bird to stop singing in shock. The king congratulates William on the success of his recent party. Isabella stands nearby, observing the interaction. The king notes that despite a bit of trouble, the guests enjoyed themselves overall. He reminds William that now that he is finally engaged, he cannot simply sit back and ignore everyone when attending parties anymore. William acknowledges his father's words, understanding his duty. The king then hints at assigning a diplomatic matter to him next. Rumor has it the king's idea of diplomatic matter usually involves William having to smile at foreign dignitaries, a task he finds more taxing than sword practice. William defends Liliana, stating she had to put in a lot of work at the last party as well. He suggests that suddenly attending many large parties at once might be too big a step for her. The king smiles, revealing he anticipated this response. He calmly informs William that he has already notified Count Duke that William would be attending his party this weekend. William is left standing in shock at his father's preemptive strike. It seems the king enjoys trapping his son in social obligations just as much as he enjoys teasing him. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Liliana is shown happily munching on a cookie, her face glowing with pure contentment. The palace chefs are reportedly keeping a ledger of her snack consumption, which has skyrocketed since the engagement. Molly enters the room carrying a gift box, announcing that it is a present from Prince William. Liliana pauses mid-crunch on a biscuit. Molly reveals that the prince sent macarons today. She gently teases Liliana, pointing out that she hasn't even finished the biscuits he sent last time, wondering what she should do with the backlog. Molly asks if her lady is happy. Rumor has it that the prince's gift deliveries are so frequent the estate's pantry is now classified as a strategic reserve of sugar. Molly observes that Liliana looks like she has been having a lot of fun lately. She notes that ever since the outing with Prince William, Liliana seems to have cheered up. Liliana deflects, asking, "Do I?" and insisting she is only happy because he keeps sending all sorts of delicious sweets. Molly counters this, reminding Liliana that when she started her crown princess training, she always looked so gloomy. The maids have a betting pool on whether Liliana's mood swings are caused by the prince or the sugar intake, and the odds are currently even. Molly accepts her lady's explanation with a skeptical look, agreeing to let it go at that. Alone with her thoughts, Liliana admits to herself that the outing was actually a lot of fun. She finally pieces together the situation, realizing that the delightful sweets arriving from the palace every day must be Lord William's way of rewarding her for acting the part of the ideal fiancée. With stars in her eyes, she resolves to work hard for more desserts and make sure to thank him for the lovely presents. Molly watches her with a deadpan expression, silently judging her mistress's complete misunderstanding of the prince's romantic intentions. Rumor has it that the prince's courtship is currently being misinterpreted as a high-stakes bakery loyalty program. William sits across from Liliana, looking slightly hesitant as he apologizes for the sudden request. He asks if she would join him at a party this coming weekend. Liliana is surprised but agrees, though she raises a practical issue. She does not have a dress. She explains that in noble society, the higher a family's rank, the more shameful it is to wear the same dress to two different parties. She reflects that while she loved the dress William gave her, she certainly cannot attend a second event in it as the prince's fiancée. William realizes that perhaps he should have commissioned more than one dress for her last time, noting that his family simply prepares dresses for him whenever he has parties to attend. It seems the prince is discovering that royal fashion logistics are more complex than military strategy. Suddenly, Queen Sophia appears, fanning herself with a smile. She informs Liliana that if she needs a dress, Anne has already made her one, reminding her of their outing together. Liliana is so overwhelmed with joy and relief that she accidentally blurts out, "Mother," instead of Lady Sophia. The queen's personal shopper, Anne, is reportedly the only person in the kingdom who can keep up with the royal family's wardrobe demands, mostly because she is actually a duchess in disguise. William is surprised to learn his mother already has a dress prepared, and Sophia explains that Anne informed her it was nearly finished. William snaps his fingers in relief, thanking his mother for saving them and offering to owe her a favor. Sophia seizes the opportunity, declaring that in exchange, all of Lily Chan's dresses in the future must be made by Anne's boutique. William is horrified, realizing this means all of Liliana's dresses will essentially be made to his mother's tastes. Sophia casually dismisses his concern, saying she doesn't mind incorporating his preferences here and there. Liliana watches the exchange, wondering if they are truly discussing the dresses she will wear, while Sophia praises William for speaking so openly about his taste in women's dresses, causing him to cry out for his mother to stop. Rumor has it the queen just secured a lifetime contract for her favorite designer, effectively making Anne the unofficial royal stylist for the next generation. The scene shifts to the night sky above Count Duke's estate as a carriage pulls up. William and Liliana step out, with William internally admitting that he hates to do it, but his mother truly has an eye for dresses. Liliana agrees, calling the outfit incredibly lovely. It is said that the queen's fashion sense is so sharp it could cut through diplomatic tension, though it usually just cuts through the family budget. Molly is beside herself with excitement, exclaiming that her lady's maid was more excited than she was when the dress arrived. She praises the breathtaking garment, expecting nothing less from the most popular designer in the royal capital. Molly eagerly anticipates using her skills to match hair decorations to such a gown, declaring that while the dress from Prince William was lovely, this one is on a completely different level. The palace laundry staff is reportedly already trembling at the thought of cleaning a dress that costs more than their annual salary. The scene opens at the Earl Villiers' estate, where Molly informs Lady Liliana that there is still time before she must leave for school and offers to prepare a snack. Liliana politely requests a cup of herbal tea instead. As Molly moves to fetch it, Liliana bends toward a box on the floor, insisting she can retrieve it herself. Rumor has it that the Earl's daughter treats reaching for low objects as a personal challenge that must be attempted solo, regardless of available assistance. As Liliana stretches, the fabric of her academy uniform suddenly tears, causing her to lose her balance and collapse onto the checkered floor. Molly pauses with a teapot in hand and asks what the noise was. Lying flat on her stomach, Liliana realizes the sound originated from the back of her uniform. A closer look reveals a button has popped off the back of her jacket. Molly stares at the damaged garment and asks what happened to the button. Liliana stands with her arms extended in embarrassment, covering her face as Molly sighs at the wardrobe malfunction. It is a well-known fact among the household staff that Liliana's recent growth is currently winning a silent war against her seams. Liliana insists her daily routine remains unchanged, explaining that she has only been exercising more due to her rigorous crown princess training. Unconvinced, Molly decides to prepare a different uniform and instructs her lady to change quickly. As she turns, Molly connects the dots, noting that Prince William has been sending sweets regularly for quite some time now. The realization strikes Liliana instantly. She defends her snacking habits, arguing that it would be a waste not to consume them since they are personal gifts meant specifically for her, and that she felt the same way, so she never voiced a complaint. Molly simply drops the lost button onto the floor with a flat expression. The palace couriers are reportedly exhausted from delivering enough sugar to feed a small regiment, mostly because the recipient treats every box as a mandatory tribute. Drawing a firm line, Molly officially bans Liliana from excess dessert consumption for the near future. Faced with her maid's stern decree, Liliana can only offer a reluctant agreement. Rumor has it that the prince's sweet deliveries and Liliana's appetite are now locked in a culinary standoff that threatens to empty the estate's pantry reserves before the month ends. The story continues at the royal dining table, where Queen Sofia happily welcomes Liliana to join them for dinner. Liliana reflects that since dinner etiquette became part of her crown princess education, she has recently started joining the royal family for these evening meals. William comments on the delicious palace dinner, mentioning that he has always enjoyed himself to the fullest, but notes that the chefs received some prime melons today and bets that Liliana is looking forward to dessert. Liliana hesitates with an Liliana announces that she does not think she will be eating dessert for a little while. The queen screams in panic, calling out Lily's name, while the king asks if she is feeling ill. The queen declares that something is seriously wrong if Liliana won't eat dessert. William shouts for someone to call a doctor, rushing to Liliana's side. Rumor has it that a refusal of dessert in the royal palace is treated with the same urgency as a royal decree. William carries Liliana out of the room, leaving Jose and Austin staring in stunned silence. A doctor examines Liliana and states that based on what he has seen, she appears to be in good health. Liliana confirms she is fine but internally questions how the situation escalated to this point. The royal physician is reportedly updating his medical textbooks to include sugar withdrawal as a critical condition. William looks distressed, internally questioning if Liliana thinks he views her as some sort of extreme glutton because she said she wouldn't have dessert. Liliana shouts that enough is enough and addresses Lord William. She explains that she said she wouldn't have dessert because she has gained a little weight, revealing that a button popped off her school uniform that morning. It seems the future queen's battle with her wardrobe is now a matter of high court drama. Liliana sighs, regretting that she didn't say something earlier to avoid causing so much trouble for everyone. William asks if she is truly not sick. Liliana looks at him surprised, wondering if he is not mad, thinking he might be upset that she didn't say anything sooner. Whispers in the hallway suggest the prince is just relieved his future bride isn't dying of a mysterious plague, or worse, a lack of appetite. Earl Oliver advises his daughter to sit down with Prince William and express their honest feelings to each other. Rumor has it the Earl's advice on romance is based entirely on his own success, which is suspicious given how much he cries about his daughter leaving. Liliana walks through the palace grounds with Molly, reflecting that she will soon be living there as Lord William's fiancée. She realizes there is no going back after that point. Before it gets to that stage, she decides they have to clear the air about their feelings. It is said that clearing the air with a prince is about as easy as teaching a cat to fetch. But Liliana is determined. William stands before her, noting that this is the first time she has ever said she wanted to meet with him. Liliana apologizes for the sudden request, asking if the notice was too short. William assures her it is not at all, stating that he is happy she wanted to see him. The prince's happiness at being summoned is reportedly visible from the other side of the palace. William admires her beautiful smile. Liliana wonders why he is looking at her that way. She questions if he would be smiling at her like that right now if he had chosen someone else at the party. She asks herself why Lord William chose her. Liliana considers that someone like him could have had his pick of the most exquisite young ladies or even foreign princesses. She grips her dress tightly, thinking that if he had chosen someone else, she would never need to worry about what to do and would never have to feel this ache deep inside her chest. She realizes that even if Lord William saw her as nothing more than a convenient fiancé, she has feelings for him. She finally understands the situation. The palace gossip mill suggests that the in her chest is just indigestion from all the sweets, but Liliana knows better. William and Liliana face each other as soft petals drift through the air. The unspoken truth settles between them that this must be love. Rumor has it that when the Ice Prince finally catches feelings, the palace gardeners have to replant the rose bushes because the sudden emotional shift causes everything to bloom prematurely. William addresses Liliana by name, his expression serious. He asks directly if she still desires to end their engagement. Liliana stares back at him, her eyes wide with shock as the question catches her completely off guard. It is a well-known fact among the court that asking a future bride about canceling the wedding is the quickest way to induce temporary paralysis, a condition currently afflicting Liliana. William admits that he finds her entirely adorable. He reflects on how much he enjoys their time together, explaining that it feels as though he can finally be his true self when he is with her. He notes that she has always treated him as William the person, rather than keeping her distance as if he were merely a prince. Whispers in the hallway suggest the prince's definition of a relaxing conversation usually involves strategic maps, making this confession a complete anomaly. William states firmly that she is the first woman he has ever cared for so strongly. He holds her gaze, letting the weight of his words sink in. The royal historians are reportedly frantically searching through ancient archives, to see if a sitting crown prince has ever confessed feelings without a formal decree, and so far the answer remains a bewildered no. Liliana becomes visibly flustered, internally noting that he just bombarded her with an overwhelming amount of information. She stammers out a request for him to wait a minute. William does not pull back, instead looking directly at her and declaring that he loves her, Liliana. Rumor has it that a confession of this magnitude typically requires 3 notaries and a signed waiver, but William seems perfectly content to skip the paperwork entirely. Liliana stands frozen, her mind racing as she processes the sudden revelation. She repeats the question of who loves whom, quietly confirming to herself that the answer is indeed her. She then questions who exactly feels such affection, realizing with wide, stunned eyes that Lord William is the source. Her thoughts spiral into disbelief as she wonders if he truly means what he says. Rumor has it that processing a royal confession takes longer than negotiating a trade treaty. But Liliana is currently stuck on the very first sentence. Liliana stammers that his declaration feels incredibly sudden. She explains that she had always believed she was nothing more than the most convenient choice for him. She bows her head slightly and offers a sincere apology for her earlier words. William listens in silence, his expression solemn. It is a well-known fact that nobles rarely apologize to their fiancés, making Liliana's straightforward sincerity stand out like a rare gem in a heavily guarded vault. William explains that he had been deeply frustrated about being forced to decide on a fiancée regardless of his own feelings, and he admits he unfairly took that anger out on her. He acknowledges that his behavior was inconsiderate. He understands why she might struggle to believe him now, especially after he initially treated her as if she were completely insignificant. He clenches his hands, firmly stating that he cannot accept anyone else at this point. He tells her with absolute certainty that she is the only one for him, Liliana. The palace staff whispers that the prince's apology is worth more than the crown jewels, mostly because he has never admitted fault to anyone ever. William reaches out and holds her hands tightly, desperately begging her not to tell him she wants to end things between them. His voice carries a rare edge of vulnerability. Rumor has it that the prince's grip is currently strong enough to crush porcelain, but he is using every ounce of his royal restraint to avoid damaging her fingers. Both of them stare at each other in complete bewilderment, each letting out a confused sound of surprise. William asks why she has been trying to end things ever since they first became engaged. Liliana echoes his confusion, asking if he truly means ending their engagement. It appears the engagement has been a mutual escape plan from the start, leaving the royal matchmaker completely out of a job and deeply confused about how to file the paperwork. William strides into the room, apologizing for keeping Liliana waiting. Liliana greets him with a bright smile. She asks if his recent business means he has been working hard. William explains that while he usually doesn't have much on his schedule this time of year, he has been cutting into his work and training time just to meet with her. He admits that his work hasn't been taking a toll on him lately, because the thought of seeing her as soon as he is done keeps him motivated, no matter how much he has to do. Rumor has it the prince's productivity has actually increased, as he now treats administrative duties as a speed run to reach the reward of Liliana's company. William gently pats Liliana's head. Flustered by the gesture, she stammers an apology, explaining that since he pats her head sometimes, she reaches up and touches his cheek. Then, holding his face, she leans in close and asks if they can stay like this a little longer. The palace gardeners report that the flowers in the courtyard have bloomed prematurely due to the sudden spike in romantic tension. William asks Liliana if she made the treats herself. She explains that she originally wanted to give him a cake, but despite practicing for days, it did not turn out well, so she made cookies instead. In a flashback, Molly notes that while the cookies received approval, they are simpler than cakes, mentioning that the cakes always came out as charred black substances. Back in the present, William crunches on a cookie that is described as being as hard as rocks, yet he insists it is really good. As he eats the hard cookie, Liliana looks embarrassed and apologizes. William wipes his mouth and tells her to throw the rest away, but then clarifies that he could never throw away something she worked so hard to make for him. William thanks her, stating she has made him very happy, and asks if there is anything else she would like. Liliana the favor since he has given her wonderful dresses and treats. William asks if she could start calling him Will, leaving Liliana surprised. Some time passes after they have confessed their feelings. William tells her that since it is her birthday, to get even closer he asks her to do something, and she agrees, addressing him as Lord Will. William stares at her silently, causing Liliana to wonder if she did something wrong. William asks Liliana to simply call him Will. Flustered, Liliana stammers, trying to form the name without the honorific. She eventually manages a Shay, Will, while blushing. William smiles and considers what to call her in return. He tries Lilia but corrects himself to Lil. He explains that since everyone else calls her Lily, he wants a special name that only uses. He leans in close, repeating and asking her again to call him Will. the intimacy of the moment causes Liliana to internally scream. The scene shifts to a popular cafe where Liliana is spending her day off with her school friends Chloe Gordon and Elizabeth Cooper. Liliana is gushing about how amazing and romantic Prince William is. Her maid Molly compliments her on baking her own cookies. Chloe remarks that if she tried to cook, her maids would forbid it as it's not considered proper for a young lady. Elizabeth agrees, noting that very few noblewomen do their own cooking. Liliana admits that it was her first time baking and she really struggled to make sweets that actually tasted good. Liliana sighs dreamily, recounting how she and Prince William were total strangers before fate brought them together, eventually growing closer until mutual love bloomed between them. Chloe agrees that it sounds like something out of a romance novel. Liliana then turns the conversation to Elizabeth, asking if she has a wonderful man in her life as well. Elizabeth explains that her fiancé and she are childhood friends who know each other well. Since they both enjoy long-distance horseback riding, they get along, so it is not a bad relationship. However, she quickly declares that romance is more fun when observed, not experienced, and changes the subject. She asks Chloe if she met anyone nice at a party she attended recently. Chloe looks flustered, squeezing her hands together, and denies meeting. The morning sun shines into the lavish bedroom within the palace. Molly enters to wake her mistress, greeting her with a "Good morning, my lady." Liliana, still buried under the covers, groggily asks for just 30 or maybe 20 more minutes. Molly firmly refuses, reminding her that she will be late for breakfast. More importantly, Molly points out that Liliana is not at home anymore and must start acting properly as a resident of the palace. Liliana realizes Molly is right, recalling that she accepted His Majesty's offer and moved into the palace. Despite the strict new routine, she expresses her relief that Molly was allowed to come along as her personal maid. Molly, however, maintains her stern demeanor, asking Liliana to act properly around her as well, stating she could never let the other palace servants see her being so careless. To lift the mood, Molly mentions that Liliana's favorite theater troupe will be putting on a new play soon. She offers to take her to see it during a break from school, provided she has no crown princess training that day. Liliana is ecstatic, exclaiming that she would love that. However, as Molly brushes her hair, Liliana suddenly freezes. She recalls William's reaction to the idea of a play, realizing it implies a show full of handsome male actors. She worries that Will won't be happy about her going to see a play. Molly suggests arranging for Liliana and Will to go to the theater together. Liliana declines, not wanting to take time out of Will's busy schedule, now that his position as crown prince is official. She reflects that despite his duties as a knight and royal obligations, he still makes time for tea with her every day, so she feels she cannot ask for more. She considers seeing the play alone, but recalls Will was pouty the last time she did something without him. Liliana muses that Will always asks what she did, where she went, and what she ate when they are apart. While she is glad he wants to learn more about her, she wishes he would trust her a little more. Will is feeding Liliana a snack when he remembers to tell her that tomorrow, a princess from the neighboring kingdom of Belluno is coming to stay for a while. Liliana asks if something is troubling him. Will explains it is mostly a courtesy visit regarding a trade agreement. He mentions that Her Highness requested he escort her around during her stay outside of parties. He notes that his father likely wants him to handle diplomatic relations as the next king. Will explains that he told the princess he is engaged to Liliana, but his father said he must be courteous to a state guest. Liliana asks if he will still escort her to events like usual. Will replies, "Of course." Who would do it if not me? He in turn hadn't come to this, but realizing it will probably be harder to spend time together while the princess is visiting. He apologizes for leaving her all alone, knowing she has a long break from school, and admits he wanted to spend more time together. Liliana reassures him that she will be fine. Liliana realizes that while Will is busy attending to the princess from Belluno, she can finally use that time to do the things she has been avoiding because of his jealousy. She wonders if this is an opportunity. She plans to have seats and guards readied for the play Molly told her about. Will stares at her, asking if the look on her face means she won't miss him. Panicked, Liliana shouts that she will be very lonely without him. Will smiles and gives her a kiss on the forehead, leaving her stunned. The next day, a woman with blonde hair introduces herself as Marianne Belluno, the third-born princess of the kingdom of Belluno. The king welcomes her to Zavani and hopes she enjoys her stay. Will formally introduces himself as William Zavani, the crown prince. On the second day of Princess Marianne's visit, the palace is abuzz with preparations for her welcome party. A maid announces that Lady Liliana is ready. Dressed in a stunning gown adorned with jewels, Liliana receives compliments from the maids who tell her she looks lovely. Liliana thanks them but then grimaces in pain, complaining internally that no matter how many times she wears a corset, it is never less painful. She wonders if high society will ever protest against such torture and coughs slightly. Molly enters with a tea cart, noting that Liliana must be tired. Liliana doubts she will be able to the party given her tight attire. Molly agrees, teasingly reminding her that she is surely aware she mustn't indulge in food if she doesn't want the corset to pop. Liliana jokingly asks if the corset is at fault for being too weak. Molly explains that the staff spent 2 hours fastening it to make her look beautiful, noting that corsets must be tightened slowly to avoid harm. As Molly tightens it just a little more, Liliana gasps but accepts it. Molly then asks for William will be escorting you at today's party, right? Liliana confirms, yes. She explains that while William has to look after Princess Marianne during her stay for parties, the arrangement is different, implying he escorts Liliana. William bursts into the room, shouting, "Lil, He appears flustered but excited, announcing that he heard she had finished preparing. Before Liliana can react, he rushes forward and pulls her into a tight embrace, exclaiming how adorable she looks and declaring that he wants to keep her all to himself. Liliana is taken aback by his sudden affection, while Molly panics in the background, worried that the prince is ruining her hard work on the hair, dress, and accessories. William, seemingly undeterred, grabs her hand and insists he needs more of her. Just as the situation becomes overwhelming, Daniel steps in, grabbing William's leg and shouting that what the prince really needs is self-control. Daniel points out that William is going to ruin the dress if he hugs her like that. William finally comes to his senses, apologizes to Liliana, and lets go. Liliana feels that he could have been a little more gentle with her appearance. She secretly prays for Daniel to get hit by a bird in front of a group of pretty ladies as payback for his interference, finding it irritating to be lectured on delicacy by someone like Danny Macho. Later at the welcome party venue, William and Liliana walk together. Liliana asks who will be escorting Princess Marianne while William is with her. William points out a man nearby, identifying him as James, the eldest son of Duke Anton. Liliana recognizes him as Lord James of the Anton Dukedom. Liliana suddenly realizes where she has heard the name, James, before. She recalls seeing him at a previous party where he was dramatically kneeling before a woman, asking how it was possible for someone to be so breathtaking. She recognizes him immediately as the man causing a scene. At that past gathering, Liliana had overheard gossip about Lord James, the eldest son of Duke Anton. Despite his high status, women couldn't stand him. Rumors circulated that his marriage talks had recently fallen through because of his personality. He was described as exceptionally prideful, treating his subordinates like worms and being terrible at actually flattering women. Liliana had watched him go from one good-looking woman to another, wondering if he had ever actually looked in a mirror to see his own face. Back at the welcome party, James is living up to his reputation. He lavishly praises Princess Marianne, declaring her beauty is like the moon, the brightest light in the darkness of night, and claiming he is but a slave to such beauty. Liliana realizes this is indeed the James the ladies were talking about. James asks Marianne to take pity on this shooting star and grant him the honor of a dance. William explains to a concerned Liliana that James was the only option. As a princess from Belluno, Marianne must be escorted by a single, upper-class nobleman near her age, and James fits those criteria perfectly. William tries to reassure her, saying, "I know what you're thinking," but James formally asks for Marianne's hand. Calling her his moon princess, she accepts the smile and they begin to dance. Observers whisper in disbelief that anyone could dance like that all night, impressed she is still smiling. As William and Liliana watch from the sinks in hand, James's behavior takes a turn for the worse. He begins aggressively chasing away other guests who approach Marianne, gesturing for them to leave. Liliana is shocked and appalled, wondering what he is doing aloud if it isn't extremely rude to chase other guests away like that. Liliana stands alone holding a glass of wine, clutching her chest as her stomach gives a loud, rumbling. Realizes that the feeling of unease she experienced earlier wasn't emotional turmoil at all, she was simply hungry. Rumor has it that the crown princess candidate's appetite is the only force in the kingdom capable of rivaling the royal treasury's expenses. Nearby, Prince Austin stares in shock as he watches his older brother dancing with Princess Marianne. He had heard rumors that His Highness only had eyes for Lady Liliana, making this sight completely unexpected. He wonders aloud what happened to the Ice Prince he once knew. Beside him, a woman remarks on how devoted William has become. Austin playfully asks his fiancée if something is wrong, to which she replies that she is no different, implying she finds the change sweet. The woman is introduced as Uriel, Austin's fiancée. They reminisce about their first meeting, which took place at a tea party for candidates to become William's fiancée. While other women swarmed William, Uriel sat back and watched, eventually leaving her seat to find the powder room. Austin, surprised that a Marcus's daughter wasn't chasing power, offered to guide her personally. He was struck by how quiet and uninterested in gaining power she was compared to the other nobles, and as they spoke, he realized they shared that same indifference to the political climbing game. It seems the second prince found his match in the one woman who didn't want to be a princess. William laments that his brief time with Liliana is already over, wishing he didn't have to leave. He complains that he will only be able to see her for breakfast and dinner now that his duties have increased. Liliana gently reminds him that he cannot neglect his official responsibilities. William reluctantly agrees but promises to see her later. As he walks away down the hall, Liliana's demeanor instantly shifts from sweet fiancé to excited teenager, shouting, "Molly!" He's gone. This marks the beginning of Liliana's secret plan to have fun away from Will. She is thrilled to see a play again and looks forward to a tea party with her friends, Eli and Chloe, beforehand. Molly has prepared everything for her outing. Liliana meets up with Elizabeth and Chloe. Elizabeth greets her warmly, noting it's been a long time since they've seen each other due to Liliana's busy schedule. They sit down for tea, where the conversation quickly turns to the royal news. Elizabeth mentions hearing about the princess from Belluno and notes that it seems Princess Marianne requested Will to escort her. She asks if it's trooted around for observations by the princess. Liliana is completely caught off guard by Elizabeth's tone, shocked that her friend seems worried about the situation. At the tea party, Chloe reveals a startling rumor circulating among the nobility. Princess Marianne of Belluno has actually come to steal the title of crown princess. Liliana is floored by the news, questioning how such a thing could happen when Will is already engaged. Chloe explains the desperate political context behind the visit. The kingdom of Belluno is suffering from a severe soil salinity problem and has not recovered, Leaving them in decline by sending their princess, they are essentially offering a marriage alliance contingent on Zavani continuing to provide aid. Rumor has it that the Belluno delegation's diplomatic visits like a subscription service renewal, expecting payments in grain and gold. Liliana questions the logic, noting there is little political gain in marrying a princess from a failing nation. Chloe adds that while Belluno's current king is young, the general populace is incredibly self-centered. They believe it is natural for other nations to prioritize their needs and view any resistance to their demands as unreasonable. Liliana realizes this entitlement, explains the look on Marianne's face, and begins to worry that the princess actually intends to take Will away. Molly quickly reassures her that His Highness would never have a change of heart like that. The palace staff is reportedly keeping a close eye on the foreign princess, mostly to ensure she doesn't accidentally sign any treaties while sleepwalking. Trying to lighten the mood, Liliana changes Chloe if she has ever met Daniel, affectionately referring to him as Macho. Chloe blushes furiously and admits that after hearing about him, she went to the knight's training sessions and finally caught a glimpse of him the other day. Elizabeth is shocked that Chloe actually managed to talk to him. Liliana suddenly connects the dots. Since Will and Princess Marianne are currently out for observations, Danny Macho is accompanying them as Will's personal knight. It seems Chloe's romantic pursuit of Knight has inadvertently placed her crush in the direct line of fire of a potential royal love triangle. At the tea party, Chloe gushes about Daniel, declaring his muscles développé. Elizabeth eagerly asks if his face matched his body, but Chloe admits she was too far away to tell for sure, though she feels he had nice features. Liliana teases Chloe, asking when she'll actually be able to speak to him directly, and offers to help once the princess's visit is finished. As the girls walk through the town, Liliana looks forward to finally seeing the play. However, Chloe suddenly spots Daniel in the crowd. Liliana freezes in panic upon realizing that Daniel is accompanying Will and Princess Marianne, fearing they will be discovered. Especially since Will hasn't spotted Molly yet, Liliana stomps her foot and urgently tells Molly they have to hurry away before Will notices them. Safe inside the theater, Liliana's anxiety vanishes, replaced by excitement. She learns from a sign at the entrance that the play is a love story between people of different classes, setting the stage for a dramatic afternoon. Rumor has it that the theater's ticket booth is the only place in the kingdom where the crown princess can disappear without causing a diplomatic incident, provided she pays in advance. The plan continues with a trip to a street performance. A new guard named Kevin introduces himself, explaining that he was assigned because the usual guard has the day off and William would find out if anyone else from the regular shift accompanied them. Kevin teasingly remarks that a secret trip's like fun since he had no dates planned anyway, leaving Liliana suspicious of his laid-back attitude. Rumor has it the prince's schedule is so tightly packed that finding a guard without commitments is harder than finding a needle in a haystack. Molly apologizes to Liliana, whispering that while Kevin is known as a problem child, among the personal knights he is highly skilled. However, as Kevin playfully snaps his fingers, Molly admits she is very worried about whether this arrangement will actually work out. Whispers in the barracks suggest Kevin's reputation comes from his habit of treating royal decrees as mere suggestions. At the lively performance, Liliana excitedly asks Molly where they should look first, debating whether to go clockwise or counterclockwise. Kevin laughs and calls her funny, prompting Molly to correct his informal address. Kevin reminds them that they are supposed to conceal Liliana's identity, but she immediately lets out a loud, unladylike scream of excitement. Kevin remarks that she is more entertaining than the show, while Molly worries about her mistress's lack of decorum. It is said that the street performers are currently betting on how long it takes for the cognito princess to accidentally reveal her identity through sheer volume. Liliana screams as a young man bumps into the group, scattering several expensive-looking wallets across the cobblestones. Molly glares at Kevin, wondering how someone like him could be a personal knight, and resolves to avoid him. The young man apologizes profusely, but Molly notices the scattered wallets and realizes they are likely stolen goods. Suddenly, Liliana dashes away. As Kevin and Molly call out to her, the young man grabs Molly's arm. He asks if she is hurt. He holds onto her and starts running, shouting that they are going after her. Liliana. Kevin chases after them. Molly struggles to keep up, worried about Liliana's safety and lacking the stamina to keep pace. The young man eventually stops, panting, and tells Kevin to leave him there and go find Liliana. Kevin smirks, agreeing that he has no choice, but continues to pursue the young man, who yells at him to leave him alone. Liliana corners a young boy who vehemently denies stealing a wallet, shouting that he didn't even take one. As she approaches, she notices he is bleeding from his leg. Kevin and Molly arrive on the scene. Kevin immediately scoops Liliana up into his arms, much to her confusion, while Molly explains they rushed because it was an emergency. Liliana asks one of them to get water from a nearby well. She sits down and tends to the boy's wound, wrapping it with a pristine white handkerchief. The boy is surprised by the quality of the fabric and insists he cannot pay her back for something so expensive, but Liliana says she used it simply because she wanted to. Suddenly, a group of other street children runs up, shouting Shelly. They ask if he is okay. Shelly explains that he just tripped while he was lifting wallets. The other children are shocked that these nobles caught him, but Shelly clarifies that Liliana was only treating his injury. Liliana decides that they are done there and announces it is time to head back. Kevin, Molly, and the other guard realize they are lost after chasing Liliana so quickly. Kevin asks Shelly if he knows the way back to the plaza. Shelly hesitantly points in a direction, saying he thinks it is somewhere that way. Kevin and Molly look flustered, admitting they don't know. Liliana covers her face, embarrassed that she has to admit she is lost as well. Liliana then turns to the street children and asks, "Oh dear, are you so petty that you won't even help people who are lost?" One of the boys shouts, "Why should I?" Liliana asks if they will show them to the right street. The boy eventually relents choice. William calls out Liliana as he spots her. Liliana realizes this is bad because Will is going to find out she snuck out. William comments on her clothes. The narrative recalls the rumor that the princess from Belluno came to steal the title of crown princess. As Molly accidentally crashes into William, Liliana runs away in a panic, thinking the rumors about Lady Marianne must be true. Liliana walks away feeling upset when looking at Will and Lady Marianne. She retreats to her room and hides under the bed covers, questioning why she feels so upset. She tells herself that as his fiancée, she shouldn't need to worry, but she can't help feeling this way as Molly enters the room. After dinner that evening, William confronts Liliana, asking her to explain what happened. Liliana notices that he isn't smiling like he usually does. She internally complains that while she knew they were going out for an observation, Will and Marianne were too close. She wonders if he is angry that she left the castle without saying anything or because she ran away at the gates. She defensively shouts that there is nothing in particular to explain and that she didn't make any trouble, lamenting that she is supposed to be the one at his. I see. William tells Liliana that there is no need for her to explain herself. He stands up and walks away, slamming the door shut as he leaves the room. Liliana is left staring after him, calling his name in shock. Liliana lies in bed that night, unable to sleep. She worries that she has made Will angry and wonders what she should do. She questions if this is actually a fight, noting that they have never fought before because Will always gives in before things escalate. She worries that normally he wouldn't get angry and would just dote on her. She fears that if she has spoiled him, he might run straight into Lady Marianne's arms. She feels insecure, thinking that a beautiful woman like Marianne suits a handsome man like Will better than she does. She laments that they aren't an equal pair and that he has never treated her like a grown woman, always babying her like a small animal. The night passes and morning arrives. Liliana hasn't slept at all because she was thinking about Will and Lady Marianne. When Molly enters the room to wake her, she finds Liliana already up and looking flushed. Liliana grabs Molly, asking what she should do, crying out that Will hates her and that she might have to move back home. Liliana panics to Molly, claiming she must move back home to her parents because she and Will had a fight, basing this decision on a trope she read in a romance novel where a wife leaves after an argument. Molly is bewildered and gently corrects her logic, pointing out that since they are already living in the palace, William likely just retreated to his room rather than going home. Liliana explains the source of her distress. Whenever she sees William with Lady Marianne, she feels a strange, unpleasant tightness in her chest. She feels insecure, believing that she, as his fiancée, should be the one by his side. Molly quickly deduces that Liliana is actually jealous. This realization hits Liliana hard. She connects her unease to the rumors she heard about Marianne potentially trying to win William over and excitedly declares that she has climbed another step on the staircase of adulthood. By experiencing jealousy for the first time, Molly advises her to resolve the misunderstanding with William as soon as possible before the feeling festers, and Liliana resolves to do her best to fix things. Liliana sits alone at breakfast, feeling dejected because William hasn't shown up, breaking their routine of eating together since she moved into the castle. She worries he is busy entertaining Lady Marianne and laments that she won't be able to talk to him that evening either. Kevin appears and teases her, warning that all her happiness will fly away if she keeps sighing. Liliana calls him insensitive and insists she isn't sighing, just taking deep breaths. Rumor has it that the prince's pastry chef is currently working overtime to create sweets that taste good but have 0 calories, a magical feat only possible through royal decree. Kevin tries a sweet and compliments it. Liliana mentions that William specifically requested low-calorie sweets for her, causing Kevin to pause. Liliana reflects on how attentive William has always been to her desires and wonders if she has ever done anything for him in return. Kevin playfully urges her to stop sighing before she loses all her happiness. Liliana insists she is just breathing. It is said the Crown Prince's attentiveness is so specific that the palace staff now categorize sighs as romantic distress signals, requiring immediate dessert intervention. Kevin asks Liliana to do him a favor and remember his name. Liliana laughs and calls Hoodie Guy, saying he is mean. Kevin stretches and says he likes her best when she has spring in her step, thanking her. Later, Molly encounters Kevin in the hallway and asks what has gotten into him. Kevin defensively asks if she ate bad food. Molly explains she was talking about Liliana, noting that her expression is brighter thanks to him. The Palace Gossip Network is abuzz with the news that the flirty guard has successfully cheered up the Crown Princess candidate, earning him a rare commendation from the head maid. Kevin playfully corners Molly, startling her as he points out how fiercely she protects the little miss. He observes that she is always on Liliana's side no matter what. He deduces that Liliana's mood is merely a bit sad, not serious, and compliments Molly, claiming she is the one who brought the smile back to Liliana's face. Molly is left blushing and flustered as Kevin walks away with a casual, "See ya," wondering what is wrong with that man. Rumor has it that the flirty guard has a secret talent for disarming even the stunniest maids, though Molly is currently trying to hide the fact that his teasing actually worked. Inside, Liliana gazes out the window, spotting William in the garden. She steels herself, deciding that the first step is to apologize for her rudeness the previous night. She resolves to have a proper talk with him, though a nagging fear remains that he might not forgive her. It is a well-known fact among the palace staff that the crown prince's patience is legendary, but his fiancée's anxiety is equally powerful, often requiring emergency tea interventions. Liliana makes her way to William's room and knocks on the door. Inside, William hears the sound and simply says, "Come in," as the door creaks open, leaving their reconciliation to begin. The royal archivists note that this specific knock pattern is now logged as a diplomatic breakthrough in the palace records. Liliana sat at her desk, holding a quill and looking thoughtful as she pondered what to write. She asked her maid Molly what kind of things one writes in a love letter. Molly asked who is sending the letter and to whom, and Liliana replied that she was the one sending it to Will. Liliana explained that she had been exchanging letters with her friends Eli and Chloe during their break, and when she told Will about it, he said he wanted letters too. Liliana realized that this was why she had to write a love letter, recalling that Will specifically requested them. She wondered what she should write in her letters. Molly suggested that she write something sickeningly sweet that even His Highness would not be able to best. Liliana declared that she could never do such a thing. Molly acknowledged this and then suggested that Liliana use the romance novels she reads as a reference. Liliana agreed, noting that she did have romance novels, and decided to give it a try. 2 hours later, Molly looked over Liliana's work. Liliana proudly presented her creation as a love letter, explaining that she had borrowed a few nice phrases from books and tried to string them together. Molly looked at the result and asked if it was a poem. The letter addressed to Will declared that he was her son and that her days were illuminated by him. It continued by stating that if he was the sun, then she was his moon, and she would light a path in the dark night to keep him from getting lost. Molly looked at the letter and wondered if that was really what love letters were like. In the kingdom of Belluno, women cannot take the throne. When born into royalty, one understands there is no need for things such as love. No matter their talent or popularity, women are excluded from the line of succession. Princess Marianne reflects that as far as the kingdom and its people are concerned, her only job is to marry someone who can benefit Belluno, which is what she has always been told. Salinity has been a major problem for Belluno in recent years. The people of Belluno grew frail, and children and elderly villagers who lived far from the royal capital passed away from simple colds. This caused the price of grains and vegetables to soar and the sparse supply of medicinal herbs to wither up. On the other hand, Zavani is a much larger kingdom with an abundance of nature. Previous generations of princesses had married into Belluno's royal family, forging a friendly relationship between the two lands. Naturally, they should have nothing but gratitude for Zavani. They spent the last 2 years requesting aid from other lands, but that agreement came to an end this year. Thanks to that connection, they were able to request aid from Zavani during the salinity crisis. It was decided that from then on, there would be a trade agreement between their countries instead of receiving aid. However, Belluno's fields had not fully recovered, making it difficult to provide any resources on their own. Plus, aside from the demand for rice and vegetables, the surge in demand for imported medicine increased the burden on their country. Marianne thought they should have used the 2 years they were receiving aid to form a plan, noting that Belluno is a prideful kingdom and in this case, they merely reaped what they sowed. 2 years ago, her younger brother who had taken the throne was too slow to make a decision. In the end, he did only what the greedy, self-centered nobles told him to do and put the matter on her shoulders. Her proposal to revitalize the kingdom of Belluno was laughed off by her brother and his band of nobles. Marianne stood alone before shadowy figures. She thought that her father used to listen to her ideas, and if he was still alive, perhaps he would have actually considered her plan. The only thing left that she could do for Belluno was to come to Zavani for that reason. She believed that forging a larger pipeline between Zavani and Belluno would allow their people to live more prosperous lives. Perhaps the king of Belluno would even take her opinions into consideration then. That was why she needed the title of queen, which meant she had to marry the crown prince. Marianne reflects that things like love and romance could be left to Prince William and his fiancée. In fact, she had hoped to get along with Lady Lyanna, believing it was perfectly natural for royalty like him to take multiple wives. She calls out to William, recalling that she really did intend to do her best to win over the prince to become the next queen of Zavani for the good of Belluno. She recalls asking William how he spends his days off, noting that he wasn't the least bit sociable and never smiled. William bluntly replies that he is too busy and doesn't have days off. Marianne offers him chamomile tea from a country in the west, mentioning it relieves fatigue and clears blemishes, and suggests he must be terribly exhausted. William interrupts her, saying he bets Lil would love that and perhaps the two of them could have it. Marianne reflects that every time she tried to start a conversation, it always ended like this. Since her attempt to spend more time together by asking him to show her around Zavani didn't work, she notes that he escorted her around town but acted like he was only doing it out of obligation. She realizes he was like this with other women too, and that the rumors didn't do his fondness for his fiancée justice, as only Lady Liliana gets special treatment. However, she observes that Lyanna hasn't challenged her at all, which makes things easier for her. It was as if Liliana was utterly unaffected, and Marianne never sensed anything from Lady Lyanna even when she kept the prince to herself day after day. Marianne resolves that she only needs to stick to the plan, no matter how much Lord William adores Lady Liliana. She recalls that day when His Highness and she were on their way to observe a pharmaceutical research institution. Marianne observes that Prince William's expression is as grumpy as ever. Though she notes he has seemed more cheerful since the previous day, she notices that sometimes he smiles a little as if he is remembering something and wonders if he is thinking of Lady Liliana. Looking at him, she realizes it might be impossible for her to formally become his queen, but she quickly dismisses the thought with a firm no. She feels distressed, realizing she cannot go home after doing nothing more than observing things. She questions why she came in the first place, worrying that if she returns with nothing to show for it, all she has done is go on a trip at the taxpayer's expense. She reminds herself that she came to save the people of Belluno. She reflects that she was supposed to be observing a research institution but was too uneasy to absorb even half of what was being said on the tour. She acknowledges that Lord William won't even look her way, realizing that he doesn't have eyes for one other than his fiancée to begin with. Liliana reflects on her jealousy upon seeing Will and Lady Marianne acting close, acknowledging that she ended up behaving very rudely. Now that they have some time alone after dinner, she sees it as her chance to apologize. However, as they sit together in silence, she hesitates. She worries that perhaps he wanted to be alone so he could end their engagement. Will calls her name, causing her to flinch. She responds, wondering how to phrase her thoughts. Suddenly, Will apologizes for the previous day. Liane is surprised, wondering why he is the one apologizing. She realizes she is the one who should be apologizing. She assumes he is going to tell her that he is marrying Princess Marianne and that they need to break up, thinking that is the reason for his apology. She asks him if he prefers girls with curves. Tears well up in Liana's eyes as she asks what he means. Will, looking concerned, asks why she is tearing up. Liliana explains that she overheard something at the princess's welcoming party and questions his preference for girls with curves. Liliana recalls overhearing gossip at the welcoming party where a nobleman claimed that most men prefer a woman with an incredible figure like Princess Marianne, who is curvy in all the right places, and that even the Ice Prince wouldn't be able to resist. The gossip also noted the large age and height gap between him and Lady Liliana, comparing them to a lion and a pet rabbit, though her memory of the event was not entirely accurate. Liliana tearfully laments that while she looks good alongside Lady Marianne, the two of them do not make a good pair at all. William is shocked by her words and demands to know who said such a thing. He admits that he did think she was like a small cute animal at first, but declares that now he loves her as a woman. Liliana accuses William of preferring Lady Marianne and concludes that his apology meant he was breaking up with her. William stares at her in absolute shock. William yells in disbelief at her conclusion. He grabs her face and tells her that he has never given his affections to anyone but her, yet she hasn't noticed that at all. Liliana looks at him with a squished face, confusedly calling his name. William leans in close to her on the couch and tells her to listen. He declares that she is his most beloved and asks if the place at his side wasn't supposed to be reserved for her. Liliana tries to respond but is interrupted. Liliana cries, believing her special place was taken up by Lady Marianne. She recalls seeing Lady Marianne link arms with him and hold his arm, lamenting that her special place was occupied by the foreign princess. William panics and yells about her arms, while Liliana cries that the spot by his side is supposed to be hers. William explains that he was just escorting the princess around town. Liliana shouts through her tears that he is her fiancé and belongs to no one else. Liliana throws her arms around William, hugging him tightly. William is surprised by the sudden embrace. He thinks to himself that he thought he was the only one who felt so strongly, but realizes as they embrace on the couch that she was just as lonely as he was. William holds Liliana close on the couch. He gently strokes her hair and kisses her forehead, apologizing for making her cry so much. William smiles at Liliana and tells her that seeing her cry with jealousy over him made him very happy, explaining that jealousy is a sign of how much she cares about him. He looks down and admits that while people called him the Ice Prince, Daniel described him as a romance newbie. He confesses that he cannot offer her any helpful words, but frankly, just seeing her speak to other men makes him envious. And he has even thought about how he would like to lock her away where no one else can see her if he could. William sits on the couch and admits that it seems he is far more jealous a person than he had thought, asking if he is pathetic. Liliana denies this, explaining that she always relies on others to do things for her, so she has no way of repaying him. She looks down and apologizes for what she has done, stating that even now she has taken advantage of his kindness and left him with a mess. William gently holds Liliana's face and tells her that she will always be the only one for him. He calls her name softly. Liliana looks up at him and declares that he alone has her heart. She adds that she feels the same. William leans forward and kisses Liliana's forehead, stating that his heart belongs to her. He then mentions that something reminds him of her. William asks Lee was up to while he was busy, noting that she always seemed like she was enjoying herself. Liliana vehemently denies this, insisting she would never do such a thing. However, she admits that she left the palace sometimes to eat delicious food and see plays. William then asks if she met with other men. Liliana confesses that she met a boy, not a man. Liliana tells William that she has a favor to ask of him. She enthusiastically requests permission to use the flirty guy. William looks confused and asks what she means. Liliana clarifies, asks if she could use the flirty guy as her personal knight. William asks why. Liliana explains that she met some impoverished children in town and promised to teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic. She states that she needs to find a place and someone suitable to teach them all of this. William asks who that might be, realizing she means Kevin, and notes that this is the first he is hearing of it. He asks if she is going to make Kevin their teacher. William asks if Kevin is the flirty guy Liliana is talking about. Liliana is surprised and simply replies that the flirty guy is just the flirty guy. William asks how she could have spoken with him if she did not know his name, leading Liliana to realize his name is Kevin. William tells her to use his proper name. He then asks if her plan is to have Kevin teach the children, to which Liliana responds that it is of course not. Liliana explains that she has asked Kevin to be an intermediary. She states that once they find a good location, Kevin will inform the children. William accepts this and suggests that they can go look for a place together tomorrow. He adds that if they still have time, they will go on a date. Liliana is surprised by the sudden proposal and asks if he does not have work. William reassures her not to worry, stating there is nothing he needs to finish in a rush. Liliana laughs happily, remarking that it will be their first date in a while and that she is looking forward to it. William mutters that he is pretty sure. Liliana agrees but points out that she cannot go outside with her eyes all puffy from crying. William says they need to do something about her eyes and is shown gently wiping her face. Daniel announces that there will be 8 guards today, including himself. He explains that they are all wearing plain clothes to blend in with the townsfolk. He details their formation, stating that Kevin, Martin, Eddie, and himself will follow directly behind, while the other 4 keep some distance. Molly listens with a stoic expression. Kevin presents documents to Liliana, informing her that he found 4 places suitable for children learning to read and write. Liliana thanks him enthusiastically for finding 4 places. She holds one of the documents, hoping that one of them turns out to be the perfect location. A carriage arrives on a cobblestone street. Liliana steps out of the carriage assisted by a guard. The group arrives at a town square featuring a large fountain. Kevin points out that food stalls are opening up that Liliana would probably like. He mentions that he and Molly came to that spot the last time they snuck out of the castle. Liliana wonders what the people are doing around the fountain today and eagerly asks William if they can go to the food stalls after their current task. Kevin tells her to eat as much as she would like. Liliana exclaims in surprise and worries that she will gain weight again if she does. Another guard asks Kevin if that means she has gained weight before. The guard adds that he wouldn't say anything about it unless she wants him praying for her. Kevin responds by praying that Macho stubs his pinky toe on the corner of his desk and that Lord William gets a pebble stuck in his shoe, leaving the guard confused by the sudden prayer. Kevin shows Liliana the first location, which is a vacant shop on the corner of the town square next to the fountain. A guard explains that it was apparently a butcher's shop. The document indicates that will need to be remodeled before any use, although it is in a prime location. Liliana stands at the entrance and looks out at the busy street. Kevin suggests they head inside and Liliana agrees. Inside, the space is definitely spacious, but Kevin notes it might be too dim to use as a study space for the children. Liliana walks down the stairs and calls out to Will. Liliana declares that she wants this place, surprising Kevin. She admits that they will need to do a lot of remodeling before it is ready to be used, but she could picture it as soon as she saw the place. Kevin reminds her that there are still 3 other locations she can see before she decides, but Liliana insists she likes this one. She smiles and tells him to just imagine all the children studying there. Kevin observes that the location gets a lot of foot traffic, so it will be safe and easy for the children to get there. He suggests that if they get rid of the row of small windows and replace them with large ones, and take down the second floor, it will become a very bright, open space. He asks if she is sure she won't regret not looking at the other properties, to which Liliana replies that she couldn't regret it if she has nothing to compare this place to. Kevin realizes he cannot persuade her once she has made up her mind and thinks the place doesn't seem too bad to him either, so he agrees to take it. Kevin announces that he will leave Daniel in charge of recruiting teachers and getting workers for the renovations. He asks if he can go tell the children about the new location immediately, and Liliana agrees, asking him to reassure them that good progress is being made despite the time needed for renovations. A guard remarks that they settled the matter quickly. Liliana suggests visiting the food stalls now that they have free time. She speaks to the man accompanying her, who is disguised with dark hair and a ponytail, noting that she hasn't had food from a stall since their visit to Crescent Moon Hill. She recalls that it was her first time trying one and that she enjoyed the new sights, adding that she is still having fun. As they walk through the market, Liliana smells meat skewers and excitedly calls out to the man, addressing him as Will, and they approach a stall where he orders 10 skewers. They sit at a table filled with various foods including skewers, a large donut, and sandwiches. Liliana looks at the spread with sparkling eyes, exclaiming that everything looks delicious and she doesn't know where to start. The man calls her name affectionately. He feeds her a skewer, which she eats with delight. She comments that while palace food is splendid, eating outside makes everything taste even more special and delicious. A waitress presents a massive tower parfait to William and Liliana. Liliana is overwhelmed by its huge size and wonders where she should start. William lifts Liliana onto his lap and takes a spoonful of the dessert. William feeds Liliana a spoonful of the parfait, telling her to open wide. Liliana feels flustered because they are eating sweets on his lap outside of the palace as well. William watches her affectionately. Daniel and Kevin observe the couple from a nearby table. Daniel wonders if he will ever get used to seeing this, while Kevin feels nauseous from the overly sweet scene. Liliana continues eating but feels she's not making a dent in the dessert and asks if she has to finish it completely. William continues to feed her. Liliana suggests that they share the giant parfait, and William happily agrees. Liliana internally regrets mentioning the large dessert. William smiles contentedly as he holds her close. Later, Molly stands outside the palace to welcome Liliana home and asks how her date went. Liliana tells Molly that they went to the plaza with the fountain where they previously saw street performers, and that there were many food stalls gathered there today. She mentions buying a lot of incredibly delicious food and promises to take Molly with her next time. Molly thanks her lady and offers to prepare some herbal tea for her. Molly walks down a long, arched hallway where Kevin is leaning against a wall. Kevin points out that she is scowling. Molly asks if he is the cause of her expression. Kevin warns her that she will scare away the ladies she likes if she keeps looking like that. Looking haggard, Kevin asks if the prince and the lady are always so mushy with each other, admitting he cannot control his reaction to it. Molly reflects that Prince William and Lady Liliana seem the same as always. Even outside the castle, she tells Kevin that since he is now her lady's personal guard, he has no choice but to get used to it. Kevin sighs and states he has had his fill, deciding he just will not look at them anymore. He complains that watching two people he knows flirt is worse than watching total strangers, concluding it is best not to dwell on it. Molly tells him he ought to actually put some effort in. Molly suggests he just consider their behavior as them adding character to the castle. Kevin laughs and agrees he is right and should not let it bother him. He reaches out and ruffles Molly's hair, thanking her. Molly yells at him not to mess up her hair as she walks down the corridor. She touches her hair, confusedly thanking him. Kevin looks down at his hand and realizes he is holding a small flower that fell from her hair. The renovation of the classroom for the impoverished children progressed rapidly. During that time, requests for volunteer teachers were put out and far more applications were received than expected. Many of the applicants were retired teachers, so Daniel conducted interviews and offered jobs to 5 of them. Meanwhile, Princess Marianne felt bad about the fight she had unintentionally caused between Will and Liliana. She opted to decrease the number of tours she went on with him, choosing instead to use her free time to go on walks in the garden or make use of the palace library. Then the other day, Liliana received word that the renovations were finished and it was time for her and Will to conduct the final inspection. Molly advised her lady to try to relax, but Liliana was too excited to see the classroom for herself to calm down. Molly warned that at this rate she would tire herself out before even getting to the classroom. Just then, there was a knock at the door. It was Will, and Liliana greeted him with excitement. However, Liliana was surprised to see Princess Marianne standing with Will and the others. Will explained that Princess Marianne had requested to join them when she heard about the outing. Noting that Belluna was also struggling with an increased number of children living in their slums, Marianne apologized for intruding on their time together but thanked them for having her. Liliana agreed that it was fine, though internally she felt perplexed and wished Will had told her a little earlier so she could have mentally prepared herself. She decided she might make everyone worry if she acted too flustered. Will asked if she was angry, but Liliana smiled and assured him she was not, admitting she was just a bit perplexed by the situation, which Will agreed was true. Liliana resolved to maintain her composure in front of Princess Marianne so that no one would question her suitability as Will's match. Will observed that her smile did not look quite right and asked if she was certain she was not imagining things, leaving Liliana frustrated that he could not simply read her mood and remain quiet. Princess Marianne nervously acknowledged the situation. Upon arriving at the renovated building, Liliana marveled at how lovely it looked. Princess Marianne agreed that it had turned out very nicely. Will explained that the white exterior gave the building a clean appearance, while the large windows and glass door allowed the interior to be seen from the outside. He noted that although glass was expensive, he had instructed the workers not to worry about the cost so that the children could study in a bright, open classroom. He also pointed out the shutters that had been installed to prevent crime during the night or when the school was not in session. As the group entered, Will noted that the entryway featured a dirt floor. Will showed them a sink, a bathroom stall, and cleaning tools that the children could use to take care of their own classroom. He explained that the children would remove their shoes on the dirt floor before stepping onto the wood flooring of the classroom, and that shelves against the wall would provide storage for supplies. Will proudly announced that all of these arrangements had been Liliana's idea. Princess Marianne examined the dirt floor entryway and praised the innovative concepts, realizing that having the children remove their shoes and clean the classroom together would teach them to prioritize cleanliness and keep the space from getting dirty. She expressed that she was learning a great deal and assumed Will had thought of everything, but Will smiled and clarified that those specific ideas had also belonged to Liliana. Liliana observes Marianne standing close together, feeling a sense of gloom. She reminds herself that it is Will's duty to entertain guests and that the situation is unavoidable, yet she remains unhappy. Molly notices her lady's mood and suggests it is time to cheer up. Will approaches Liliana and asks if she is certain she is not imagining things, sensing her mood. Liliana denies being in a bad mood and tells him he did not need to bring it up at that moment. Will asks if she still does not understand how much he cares about her. When Liliana asks what he means, he takes her hand. Will tells her that he adores her joy-filled smiles and the way her expressions change rapidly, stating that they are all splendid and wishing he were the only one who could see them. He continues to list things he finds adorable, such as how she mumbles strange things while dozing off in the gazebo and how she drools while dreaming of food. Liliana is left speechless and confused by his confession. In the background, their companions watch the scene. Kevin remarks on Will's unique way of expressing affection. Will declares that seeing her stuff her face full of sweets heals his soul. Liliana is mortified that he would reveal such embarrassing details about a young lady in front of Princess Marianne. Daniel observes that it looks more like Will is bullying Liliana than supporting her. Marianne asks Daniel if he should stop Lord William, but he replies that it is not his place, to which Marianne agrees that it certainly looks like bullying. Daniel decides it is too much work to get between the couple and chooses to leave them be. Liliana sits on Will's lap, shuddering as she declares that she has allowed him to feed her sweets and comb her hair on his lap, but she announces that such behavior ends today. Will reacts with shock, protesting that those moments are his bliss. Marianne asks Daniel to tell her about the macho man, but Daniel corrects her that his name is Daniel. He confirms that the prince adores Lady Lyanna to an almost obnoxious degree. Marianne questions if it is true that the prince seats Lady Lyanna on his lap to feed her and comb her hair. Daniel affirms this, adding that the prince lost his moments of bliss when Liliana gained weight and stopped eating sweets, prompting him to order the palace pastry chefs to create low-calorie alternatives. Marianne reflects on her life, recalling how she loved Belluno more than her siblings and worked hard to hone her political skills until they surpassed everyone else's. However, being born a woman meant her younger brother would inherit the crown. Shortly after, the salinity crisis began, leaving a mere princess like her almost completely powerless to help, causing her to despise the fact that she was born a woman. She reflects that all she could do was try to end her people's suffering by strengthening their bond with the abundant kingdom of Zavani. That was why she set her pride aside for her country's sake and came all this way, hoping to win over the crown prince. Despite all that, she cannot believe or accept that he feeds his fiancée on his lap in front of other people. Kevin observes that Lady Liliana is the only woman the prince would feed on his lap like that, so there is nothing for Marianne to get worked up about. Marianne feels fed up that everything the prince says is about Lady Liliana, concluding that while he might adore his fiancée, he does not treat her like a woman at all. She decides she cannot handle a man like him, not even for the sake of her kingdom. Marianne calls the man macho, but is corrected that his name is Daniel. Marianne instructs Daniel to prepare for her departure at once, announcing that she will be returning to her homeland. She addresses Will and Liliana, clearing her throat to state that she will be returning to Belluno very soon. She acknowledges that many unexpected things occurred but notes she learned quite a lot during her stay. Daniel agrees to her wish. Marianne smiles and remarks that she found the Pharmaceutical Research Institution the most fascinating, praising Zavani as a wonderful country with an abundance of nature and wishing her homeland could grow as many medicinal herbs. Marianne explains that importing herbs takes more 5 days, causing them to lose their effects since they must be processed within 5 days of harvesting. Liliana asks if Belluno is not importing medicinal herbs. Marianne clarifies that they tried cultivating them in Belluno, but they never grew well in their soil and the rest withered and died during the salinity crisis, leaving them with the only option of importing processed medicinal herbs for a much higher price. Liliana suggests building a pharmaceutical research institution on the border between their countries. She explains that the Dante domain produces the most medicinal herbs, and if that is too far, the Villiers domain where her family presides could transport herbs to the border in 1 to 2 days. Marianne is shocked and asks if that method would work, realizing it would allow the people of Belluno to obtain medicine for a much cheaper price, though she asks if they produce enough crops for that. Liliana states they have plenty of land and should be able to increase the amount of herbs they grow, though it would be impossible to match that level of demand right away. Realizing they would need more workers, Liliana has an idea and suggests the children, explaining that they told her they had nowhere to work, so she will ask them if they would be willing to take the job. Marianne wonders if Lady Liliana would really do that. Marianne is tearfully grateful. She declares that this is she came to this country and that she, a princess of Belluno, is going to establish a pharmaceutical institution, grabbing Liliana's hands. She reflects that this was far more productive than trying to become Prince William's queen, and thinks that had she known things would turn out like this, she would have opened up to Lady Liliana much sooner. Marianne asks if they might meet again, some stating that next time she would like to visit Liliana as a friend, leaving Liliana surprised. Liliana smiles and agrees, saying of course. Marianne bows deeply and sincerely apologizes to Lady Liliana for how rudely she treated her. She explains that every time she spoke with Lord William, he did nothing but speak of Liliana, assuring her that there is nothing to worry about. Marianne then curtsies formally, addressing Lord William and Lady Liliana. Speaking as the third-born princess of Belluno, she thanks them for the kindness their kingdom has shown her. Waving goodbye from her carriage with a bright smile, Marianne promises that once the institution is ready to be established, she will write to them at once. Will and Liliana stand together, smiling as they watch her departure. Princess Marianne returns to her homeland, and their lives return to Norna that things are about to get very busy. He internally rejoices that with the princess gone, he finally has enough time to dote on Liliana again. Liliana, enjoying a slice of cake, reflects that although she suggested the Pharmaceutical Research Institution, her father and older brother are the ones who have to take action, so she needs to offer them a proper explanation. Liliana announces that she will be returning to the Villiers domain for a bit. William, flustered, suggests inviting her family there to explain instead and tries to insist on coming with her. However, he is reminded of his neglected duties, realizing he has been putting off work first to entertain the princess and then to help build the classroom. Liliana notes that her break from school will be over soon, so the timing is perfect. She decides to write a letter to tell her family she is coming home. Since the travel takes a full day and she plans to stay at least one night, she will be gone for a minimum of 3 days. William is distressed by the thought of being separated from her for 3 days just when they could finally spend time together, though he acknowledges he cannot put off his work any longer. Liliana suddenly remembers she also has to speak with the children first. She worries that while the project might help them obtain jobs in homes, The thought of leaving the royal capital might upset them. She cheerfully concludes that she is going to be busy too. William, along with Daniel and Kevin, looks utterly exhausted as Daniel pats William on the head. The next day, Liliana gathers the children in the classroom and apologizes for the sudden meeting. She tells them she has something important to discuss. One child asks what it is, while another angrily asks if she is giving up on teaching them. Calling such an action irresponsible, Liliana clarifies that she wants to discuss what happens after they finish their studies. She explains that her family, the Villiers, own land a day's carriage right away where they are focusing on cultivating medicinal herbs and rare fruit. When a child asks what this has to do with them, Liliana asks if they would be interested in leaving the royal capital to work on cultivating these crops with her. The children are stunned by the offer. Liliana explains that this opportunity will come after they learn to read, write, and do arithmetic, and that it will allow them to get at honest jobs, provided they promise to stop stealing. She emphasizes that she does not intend to help those who will not put in the effort to escape their current situation and states she will conduct a thorough interview first. One of the boys acknowledges this. Liliana then tells them a harsh truth, warning that the act of stealing they have relied on for survival may come back to haunt them in the future. Liliana stands before the children in the classroom and warns them that they might be falsely accused of things they were not involved with. She explains that at times they might want to rely on the easy way out, but trust is lost in an instant and must be rebuilt day by day, little by little. She states that if they resort to stealing, she will not be able to bring them along with her. Watching from the doorway, Kevin asks if her words are a bit harsh for the children. Liliana replies that cultivating medicinal herbs is a very tough job and that if they are going to work, it does not matter if they are a child or an adult. When Kevin looks surprised, she smiles and says that her harshness is on purpose. One of the boys speaks up, revealing that he has never met his parents before. Liliana tells him that is exactly why she cannot trick them with any platitudes at this stage in their lives. The boy explains that this is how he has lived for as long as he can remember, and everyone in the room is the same. He clarifies that they did not steal because they wanted to, but because they knew they could not get jobs if they never went to school. The boy then shouts that he will work as hard as he can if it means getting a real job and a normal life, begging her to just give them a chance as the other children bow and plead. Liliana smiles gently and tells them she looks forward to seeing their efforts. Liliana informs the children that the final say lies with her father, but she will work hard to receive his approval and find them a good place to work. As the group leaves, Kevin watches them and thinks that she is way more down to earth than he thought. He also hopes that her stomach growls constantly and that all the girls he loves laugh at him. Liliana glares at him, thinking his words are rude, while Kevin looks confused. The next morning, Liliana and William say their goodbyes. Liliana reassures him that they will only be apart for a week, and William promises to bring a souvenir back. William waves as Liliana gets into a carriage, thinking to himself that he has left the palace. Liliana tells him not to make such a sad face as the carriage drives away. It is noted that setting out first thing in the morning was a good choice. The carriage finally arrives at the Grand Villiers estate, surrounded by lush gardens and expansive farmland. Liliana steps out and takes in the familiar sight, remarking on how beautiful and welcoming the estate looks. Servants line up to greet her, bowing respectfully as she makes her way toward the entrance. Inside, Liliana is warmly received by her father, Lord Villiers, and her older brother. Her father welcomes her home with a gentle smile, expressing how much they have missed her. Her brother playfully asks if she has been eating well and whether the crown prince has been treating her properly, causing Liliana to blush and assure him that everything is fine. Seated together in a comfortable room, Liliana begins to explain the details of the pharmaceutical institution and the request from Princess Marianne of Belluno. She describes how increasing the cultivation of medicinal herbs on their land could supply the new institution on the border between the two kingdoms. Her father listens thoughtfully, while her brother asks practical questions about the scale of production and whether their current workforce would be sufficient. Liliana mentions that the children she has been helping could eventually serve as workers, provided they receive proper training and education first. Liliana emphatically clarifies a point, shouting that she didn't say to tear it off, but rather to grab hard enough that one could tear it off. Oliver simply responds with an awkward "I see." Meanwhile, Ian and Aiden are overcome with emotion at her passionate display, exclaiming that their big sister is too adorable and cute. Oliver clears his throat and addresses Liliana, stating that he cannot praise her for taking action before obtaining permission from him and Ian. He asks if she understands the reason for this. Liliana remains silent as she listens to him. Oliver explains that nobles are able to live without hardships because of their subjects. He elaborates that they create comfortable environments for the common people, who in turn support the nobles' way of life through tax payments. Ian warns that should they make the wrong decision, the subjects will be the first to suffer. Oliver states that trading medicinal herbs with a nearby kingdom and educating a future workforce will be of great benefit to the Villiers' domain. Ian explains that because they represent the people, it is crucial for them to scrutinize their choices, no matter how trivial they seem. Oliver then grants Liliana his permission to proceed, though he specifies it is just this once. Liliana looks pleased with this approval. Liliana thanks her father and promises to make sure she consults him next time. Ian tells her that is great news, and Aiden says good for her. Liliana runs off, calling out to Ian and Aiden. Liliana, Ian, and Aiden are shown hugging each other, thanks them both. Few hours after Liliana left the palace for home, William sits at his desk surrounded by towering stacks of paperwork accompanied by Daniel and Kevin. William looks exhausted and internally declares that he needs more Liliana. Daniel urges William to hurry up and do his work, to which William agrees. Daniel shouts that he is doing his own work, and William observes that his knight is really annoyed. William laments that he could have gone with Liliana if it weren't for the mountain of paperwork. He reflects that he would have opposed such a long separation, noting that she will be gone for a week, including the travel time to get there and back. William recalls various adorable moments of Liliana, such as her failing to read the room, mumbling strange things as she dozes off in the gazebo. He feels embarrassed by these memories but finds them all so adorable that he couldn't refuse her request to return home. However, he also reflects that lately, he has done nothing but hurt Liliana with his missteps, such as making her anxious when Princess Marianne was visiting. Despite this, he is still lonely without her, even though it has only been a few hours. He wonders if she has arrived in the Villiers domain already, knowing it takes a full day of carriage travel to reach there from the palace. Daniel sighs, recalling that this distraction happened before William and Liliana confessed their feelings to each other. He notes that William was too distracted to get his work done back then as well. William stares blankly, thinking not again. Daniel teases him, wondering what the Ice Prince would think if he could see what a wimp he has become. Daniel then asks if William noticed that Princess Marianne was trying to steal him from Lady Liliana. William looks confused and asks, huh? Daniel realizes that William didn't have a clue about the princess's intentions. He thinks to himself that William really doesn't have eyes for anyone but her. Daniel then tells William that if he finishes the mountain of documents, he could go visit the Villiers domain. William immediately starts working furiously, declaring he has no choice. Daniel watches him work at high speed and thinks that the motivation was way too effective. 5 days after Liliana left the castle, William arrives at the Villiers domain. He calls out to Liliana and lifts her into his arms. He sighs and tells her he missed her so much he thought he was going to die. Liliana tells him he could have waited for her at the castle since she was going to leave the next day anyway. William expresses his happiness that she came there and Liliana laughs, telling him he is exaggerating. William hugs Liliana tightly, but someone clears their throat to interrupt them. Ian glares at the couple while Aiden offers to escort Prince William inside. Liliana realizes they are still standing at the front door. Inside, a servant announces that the head of family has prepared a welcome banquet for William's arrival and invites him to make himself at home. The group enjoys a meal together, plays chess, and sits in the living room to talk. William looks thoughtful, realizing he wanted to enjoy his time with Liliana to make up for their time apart, yet her family is right there with them. He notes that they will be leaving together the next day to return to the palace as a hand moves a chess piece on the board. William rides his horse alongside the carriage, determined to stay strong until they leave the estate so he can finally be close to Liliana again. He complains to Daniel that he should be cuddling with her in the carriage to make up for their time apart. However, Daniel explains that the carriage is completely full of souvenirs for the king, queen, Prince Austin, Prince Jose, and the staff, leaving absolutely no room for William. William laments that he took a horse tour as quickly as possible, but it has backfired on him, and he wishes he had taken a carriage instead. Daniel suggests stopping to rest the horses. Liliana takes the opportunity to invite William to see a beautiful lake nearby. They walk to a lovely spot that Liliana explains is a secret place her brother Ian showed her, kept pristine because so few people visit. Hiding behind some bushes, Daniel and Kevin watch the couple. Daniel notes that William, who looked miserable all day, is finally in a good mood, while Kevin remarks on how much this prince has changed and melted into a puddle thanks to Liliana. Sitting together under a tree by the lake, William tells Liliana that he feels like she is finally back with him. He apologizes for the hurt and loneliness he caused her ever since Princess Marianne came to visit. However, he admits that seeing her get jealous, angry, and cry actually made him really happy because it showed she cares so much for him. He confesses that those expressions are burned into his mind. Liliana, blushing furiously, begs him to forget all about it, but William says he cannot. Liliana hesitates but declares that she is going to work really hard so that they can stay together forever without anyone saying that she is not a good match for him. William looks at her, thinking her name, and tells her that he feels like he can do anything as long as she is by his side. He then calls her silly for asking if she can do anything before hugging her and exclaiming that she is just too cute. Holding her, William promises that he would never let anyone say that about her. He points out that she also helped them improve their relationship with Balluno and expresses his gratitude to her. He adds that the school idea she came up with was brilliant, though he feels shameful when he actually puts it into words. He promises to work hard so that he becomes a king worthy of being by her side. Liliana smiles and tells him that he has nothing to be ashamed of and that she loves who he is right now, before adding one more thing. Liliana states that the place by his side is hers and hers alone, warning that she might hate him if he lets some other woman take it. William responds by saying that they should be together forever, declaring that she is the only one he wants to be with. Liliana laughs and says she believes him. Kevin watches them from a distance and tells Daniel to just look at them. Daniel observes that they are totally lost in their own world. Daniel agrees and Kevin grumbles that he is jealous. William and Liliana share a kiss. Suddenly, Kevin pops up behind them and announces that their break is just about over. Liliana is suddenly struck by the realization that she had completely forgotten Daniel and Kevin were accompanying them. This shock causes William to fall backward against a tree. He ends up sitting on the ground, covering his face in embarrassment while Liliana looks on. Kevin makes a sound of realization. William, looking flushed and angry, points accusingly at Kevin and declares that he will pay for this, mentioning both Danny and Kevin. Kevin points back with a teasing expression, while Daniel stands in the foreground looking annoyed. Molly pours tea from a pot, but is distracted, causing the liquid to overflow onto the saucer. Liliana calls out to her, and Molly quickly apologizes for the mess. Liliana notes that Molly is acting strange and asks if something happened, but Molly denies it. Molly explains that she passed the Royal Order's training grounds earlier and overheard young ladies talking about Kevin. She recounts that they described him as giving off a sensual air of ennui, and that one of them wouldn't mind being his plaything. Liliana asks if they are referring to the flirty guy and wonders if they mean he is sloppy because he always forgets to fasten his top button. Molly clarifies that he does it on purpose. Liliana asks what they mean by plaything, hoping it just means playing together, but Molly confirms it refers to a different kind of plaything. Liliana wonders if Kevin has any respectable women in his life and expresses hope that he chooses a woman with a good head on her shoulders. Molly questions whether a respectable woman would ever fall for him in the first place, and Liliana agrees that this is the biggest problem. Kevin waves at Molly in the hallway. Molly addresses him and relays her lady's thought that he always forgets to fasten his top button. Kevin asks if she is joking, but Molly insists she is serious and advises him to button up properly if he does not want her thinking he is careless. Kevin laughs off the suggestion. Kevin buttons his shirt, remarking that if he does that, the ladies will be heartbroken, and calls Molly and the Little Miss children. Annoyed, Molly grabs his collar and yells that this is exactly why he does not have any respectable women in his life.